Hold on to your butts, ladies and gentlemen, because it's Greek week.
What?
Not the kind that involves ritualistic torture, spanking, putting various things on people's genitals. College.
We're not going to talk about elephant walks, but at the same time, there's going to be some things like elephant walks going on.
Now that I think about it, this shit is crazier than collegiate Greek week.
So, what subject in school would you classify Greek mythology as? Is it
World history?
But is it world history? Is it literature? Is it theater?
It crosses over.
Yeah, it's so tough to put a pinpoint in. And full disclosure, doing Heracles, we're going to call him Heracles this week because once you learn that his name was Heracles for the Greeks and then Hercules for the Romans, Heracles just sounds so much better. But
it also plays into, if it's Hercules, it has no tie to Hera. There's never that story about like, oh, we know he's not your son and we know your husband knocked up this other woman, but hey, we named him after you.
Yeah.
His name's Hercules. No. It used to be Heracles before all the shit got co-opted by the Romans.
Well, in preparing for this episode, me and my significant other have talks about this stuff all the time.
He's not talking about me. I'm his business.
Other significant other, the one that I live with. But I wasn't a Disney kid. I didn't really grow up on this stuff. She asked me if I'd ever seen the Zeus or the Hercules movie for Disney. I told her I didn't think so. She said that Danny DeVito is like his slick mouth sidekick.
Yeah,
I feel like I would have remembered that. Phil?
Philatides or something like that.
I've never seen it.
The Gladiator.
No idea. All I do know is, though,
it's got one of the most banger soundtracks from Disney movies. Like the heroic score on it. It's very good.
Heracles can really fit into like any kind of story arc or lane, depending on how much blood or how much beauty you want to put into it.
So I knew about some of the Labours. Like you hear about some, you pick up on, if you've ever played Assassin's Creed, that game covers fucking everything. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Some of the missions in Assassin's Creed Odyssey are actually the 12 Labours that Hercules had to actually perform. And so I was familiar with some of them, the Nemean Lion, the Hydra, maybe the Bull, but not in depth like we found out about here, which is, it's now my favorite Greek story. But I didn't know all of them. Some of them are batshit crazy in true Greek fashion. But kind of the telling of the story of how this was done is, it is just pure Greek poetry.
There's truly a beauty to it. And that's why I was trying to figure out what you could put it into, because it's been retold so many different times by so many great storytellers that you can make it epic. You can make it bloody. You can make it disgusting. Also, you can nerf it and turn it into a wonderful kids. So again, full disclosure on this, I got like halfway through an audiobook and was loving it. And I went to look at like who the narrator was and all that kind of stuff. And I realized that it's in the children's section of audiobooks.
Nice.
And I listened to it completely. Like it doesn't really matter how old you are. Greek mythology can really hit on anything. Of course, less sexual things in the child's version, but at the same time.
It's the Disney movie.
Yeah.
The Disney movie takes, I think it does he gains the entirety of him gaining his hero status completely takes out what initially drives him on this mission of these 12 Labours. Of course, it's a fucking Disney movie. But it goes through a rapid fire like montage when they're doing this song about him and his rise, and you get to see the boar, you get to see the Hydra, or the Hydra is the one he defeats, but you get to see all the other Labours. And at one point he's wearing the lion head like mantle and everything.
It can be told in so many different ways, and we're going to tell it as good of an amalgamation of all these different stories as possible. Yeah, you're getting the adult version of this for sure.
This is the best version by far.
We're not skipping out on it.
It's got everything.
So before we jump into Hercules, and this is going to be mainly focused on his 12 Labours. There's so many other stories about him. We'll talk about birth. We'll talk about the Labours. We'll talk about death because it's just so interesting.
Because of what he does during the Labours, it comes back around. Yeah.
Before we jump in, wherever you're listening to us, if you could drop us a 5-star rating, that would be great. We love getting reviews. Try to follow up with as much of them as possible on Spotify. And it's a beautiful problem to have, not to humble brag, but you guys give us a lot and we love seeing them. And it's sometimes tough to get through all of them. Same thing with messages on social media. We're trying to get to them. We work day jobs too. We have families, but at the same time, this is very important. So we will get to you.
We love the fact that there's so many.
Yes.
Fucking awesome.
It's a wonderful thing. It's a good problem to have. Wherever you're listening, if you watch us on YouTube, listen to us on YouTube because we haven't gotten to video yet. Hit the subscribe button. It only helps us as far as our spread and our reach. We've stayed on the top 50 for a very long time for history podcasts on Spotify. Thank you. Yeah, let's get into the labors.
Throw on your togas, strap on your sandals. It's time for the 12 Labors of Hercules. Oh shit, Heracles. Heracles. I just labeled this as the Heracles honeydews.
We're gonna roll through a lot of stuff, but to tell the full story of Heracles, we have to bring up the fact that Zeus is such a pervert and such a womanizer. I can't even really, say womanizer because we talked during the Greek mythology episode about him having sex with animals.
Yeah.
Like he is everywhere. This guy will go after anything that he can.
Well, I mean, he does like to try to make sure that, well, here's the thing. He's got to keep it in the family. That's what the whole Greek mythology is. It's just them interbreeding with each other. There's cousins that are siblings. There's daughters that are sibling. And then when it comes to, you'd be like, hey, I get it. You want to go down to the mortal world because they're strange down there. You're not related to all of that. But when he goes to the mortal world, he's like, no, I need to actually find the descendant of one of these other kids that I made and try to make another kid because then it's already got some of my power and then I'm giving it more of my power. So let's go that route. Let's go for my great-great-grandchildren half.
Any demigod that's down there, anybody that they're interested for a reason. So I'm going to be interested in them too. Zeus would make eyes on a mortal woman named Alcmene, and when he made some eyes at this woman, he just knew that he had to have her. She was in love with a man named, you're going to have to help me out on this one,
Amphitryon. He was like a general in Thebes.
Yeah, and these stories differ. There's a story about Amphitryon going to try to avenge Alcmene's family. As Chris just said, he was in the military. They were away fighting a war. And while they were away fighting a war, Zeus decides, I'm going to slip in there. But I got to take this guy's shape so that way she doesn't know that it's me because she's in love with this guy. So, of course.
Honey, I came back from campaign to make love to you.
And that's what he does. He shows up at the door one night. Zeus knocks on the door in the shape of Amphitryon, whatever his name is. Amphitryon. And as soon as Amphitryon's standing at the door and Alcmene opens the door, it's a sweet, sweet reunion. Amphitryon? Sure. Yeah, Amphitryon sounds good. Alcmene brings him directly into the house, and it's I missed you so much. Oh, I missed you so much too. And then they both rush into bed, and it was so good that Zeus actually tricked the god of time, or bargained with the god of time.
Like the god of the moon or something like that. Like,
yes.
I'm going to need you to hold that moon for 3 actual days up in the sky, so she believes it's one night.
So Zeus is knocking the bottom out of this woman with, I'm assuming, the same shape, size, and girth as her.
I would imagine.
Yeah. She's going to know if it looks different. Yes. Yeah. So knocks it out for 3 days. That next morning when the sun rises, Amphitryon is gone, and Alcmene's looking around the house. She can't figure out. He just got home. He just absolutely, is he out to get orange juice? What's he doing to replenish? We got to figure out how to jump back in here. And a few hours later, Amphitryon walks back in saying, I am home from war. I missed you so much. Please let me take you now. Alcmene's like, what are you doing? Do you not remember that night that felt like 3 nights last night?
Oh, were we role playing?
Yeah, and so they kind of put that on the back burner, and she goes for another round 2 with her actual husband this time, and they kind of come to the understanding that the first time was not with her husband, but with Zeus morphed into her husband.
Yeah.
And
how you get to that point?
Yeah.
They're just sitting there, both in bed, and they're thinking, so he looked just like me. Yeah. Okay, so it definitely was not me. Who else is a known pervert and can take the shape of anyone? God. Zeus. So here's how much of a fucking sexual deviant Zeus was. So Perseus is the grandfather of Alcmene. Perseus is the son of Zeus.
Yeah, I mean, it all lines up. It's all correct. Perseus is going to play a pretty big role in this coming up. So, of course, after a 3-night that was pushed into 1 night of lovemaking, Alcmene becomes pregnant. Little do they know, she's actually pregnant with twins. And this might blow me away more than anything about this, just the fact that the Greeks were correct about this. She was pregnant with twins. One of them was Zeus's, and one of them was Amphitryon's. Now, we're talking about a time roughly to try to date it between like 3,500 and 3,000 BCE. And this is actually a phenomenon that can happen where a woman can be pregnant with twins with 2 different fathers. They called this 5,000 plus years in advance.
Are they calling this, though, because they didn't know any better? I'm saying there is a difference between knowing for a fact that this is a thing that can happen, just imagining and being like, well, yeah, I mean, I guess if there's 2 in there, it can be, or are they saying that, like, to make the story juicier, that's how, they had to become, they were brothers / cousins, but then they become mortal enemies or whatever to, like, spice up the story a bit.
But at the same time, they're still right.
The Greeks knew a lot of shit. I just don't know how the study. What do you do? Do you like, they got a lot of time on their hands, a lot of philosophers. Yep. They're sitting there and they're like, so I was at like the brothel the other day, and this woman was just like, one guy went in, doom, 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 did his business. And then literally right behind him, another guy came in, doom, 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 did his business. You think if that happened and she got pregnant, like, how would they tell the difference of whose it was? And the other one's like, this is a high conversation of them smoking some shit and talking about it. He's like, well, hold on a second. Like, what if she had twins? Would each man have like one? And he's like, hold on, dude. Fucking triplets with like 3 guys. What's going on?
This is a guy in the 80s buying a future for the 2006 NBA Finals and getting it right. Like, it's stupid, dumb luck. But at the same time, the fact that it's actually true just blew my mind. Alcmene is pregnant with twins, and you can imagine that Hera is not going to be very pleased with Alcmene once she finds out that Zeus went down and impregnated her. Again, we don't support women attacking other women, and especially the way that Hera goes about this, it just doesn't seem great.
Hera's just, we're 5 minutes in, so I can say cunt, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Hera's a cunt. So she's upset at Zeus, but Zeus is the king of the
rightfully.
gods.
She's upset rightfully with Zeus.
Definitely. But at the same time, it's like, you're married to your brother. Like, what do you expect him to do? Like, maybe he's not into that stuff anymore.
This isn't the first time he's done this either.
But instead of going like old school, like Titanomachy, where they fought against the Titans or like the initial gods, or Kronos even before that, instead of just slicing off his dick, like good Greek mythology tells you that you should do, you instead are punishing the women who were fucking duped into thinking it was their husbands, and then also the fucking children.
This is false pretenses. This happened under false pretenses. You can't really...
This is a crazy bitch.
Yeah. And it almost becomes like this little game between Zeus and Hera as far as Heracles' life and how things go. And if Heracles fails, Hera is proven right. If Heracles overcomes, Zeus is proven right.
So his name wasn't originally Heracles.
It was Alcmene.
Something like that. So I think after his mother, it was something close to kind of in her lineage is for her name. So how it kind of goes is Zeus, there's this kid. It's not named Heracles yet, but Zeus is like, okay, I really want this kid to succeed because the fates had told him that he would sire a child that would actually go across the land and defeat all of these monsters. So he thinks it's Heracles or whatever the kid's name is at the time. But he's like, he can't really do anything unless he's like super strong. And the only reason that the other gods are strong is because I had them with either Hera or whatever, and then Hera suckled them to her breast, and they were able to gain her power, or like the power from her. I gotta fucking do that. So,
wait a second, we're skipping over some good shit.
Okay.
So, pregnancy day comes for Alcmene. She's ready to shoot these twins out. Zeus goes ahead and calls his shot, and Zeus proclaims that the first child to be born of the lineage of Perseus would become the High King.
He's trying to get one over on Hera.
Yep.
With this.
Yeah, he wants Heracles to be the High King.
Yeah.
Heracles goes ahead and goes to the goddess of childbirth. I think her name is Alethea.
Hera does, not Heracles.
Hera goes to Alethea and says, you need to make sure that Heracles, whatever his name is,
second out of the ride,
and Ithacles is not born first. So Alethea goes down and sits outside of Alcmene's house, and she ties a knot. She crosses her legs and she crosses her arms, and somehow that magically stops Alcmene from having a child. Meanwhile, Hera has kickstarted one of the other children down there. I forgot the pregnant woman's name that has them. But she actually makes sure that Eurystheus, who is also the cousin of Heracles, is born first, making him the High King. They said it was somewhere between like 1 and 2 months premature that Eurystheus was fired out of the womb.
So how is he part of Zeus's lineage?
He's a descendant of Perseus.
Oh, okay.
So again, I don't know who his parents were. We could have looked that up. It's just...
So part of the other aspect of the story, and here's the thing with these Greek myths. They're awesome. They have everything you want them to have, but there's different retellings. So in this story, this person is involved, which then ties into this adventure. So it's almost like if you wanted to create a character in Greek mythology, you just simply took an existing set of stories and you said, well, actually, I heard that Heracles was with this guy during this labor. And then all of a sudden you have a spinoff, a way to go ahead and create this guy's own series because he has this history with Heracles.
And because there's no TV and everything is boring as shit.
So to spice up this whole rivalry between who will be Heracles and then this guy, Eurystheus, there are some tellings that say he was the other child inside the womb. And so the firstborn of his lineage, what this goddess of childbirth or whatever
Alethea,
it was. She comes in and she basically pulls a switcheroo. Heracles is hanging low in the womb and is going to be the first one out. She just pulls the old switcheroo and just swaps places while they're in the womb. So Eurystheus comes out, and because he's been sharing a womb with fucking Hercules.
No.
Why do I keep saying Hercules? Jesus Christ.
Eurystheus is the cousin. Ithacles is the brother.
What I'm saying is in a retelling or a different version, they share the womb. And then that's what makes essentially the rivalry between them have a little bit more like gravitas, I think, because part of the story about that is when Eurystheus comes out first, because he's been sharing the room or the room. Yeah, it's the room. It's a skin room, womb room with Heracles. Heracles has kind of gotten like the power and shit. So Eurystheus comes out kind of like weak and sick, and he's like the antithesis of what Heracles will become.
Yeah, through any retelling, Eurystheus is always the bad guy.
And he's the first.
Yeah.
So he gets to be essentially, and Hera manipulates it to make it happen. So she pulls one over on Zeus. She's like, listen, you want to fuck strange ladies? You're not also getting a king out of it too.
Well, Alcmene had a pretty badass midwife because she had realized that something was going wrong with Alcmene's birth. Something must have been going on. The gods who always manipulate the mortals' world somehow have something in there. So what her midwife does is she opens up the door to the birthing room and she says, Alcmene has had her children. Well, Jesus Christ, I nailed it like 3 times. Alithia. Fuck it. Alithia.
It's like trying to name off medication.
No shit, huh? She realizes, well, that's impossible. I have my legs crossed. I have this knot tied. She couldn't have had the child. She gets up to see. As soon as she uncrosses her legs to stand up to go into the room to see if Alcmene's had her children.
Gotcha, bitch.
Yep. The curse has been lifted, and Alcmene will birth out Heracles, and she'll birth out Ithacles.
Is it a midwife that comes out?
Yeah.
The midwife comes out, she stands up, and she's like, oh.
Gotcha, bitch.
She's like, oh, God damn it.
You're so
I'm going to
smart.
fucking curse your family.
So, in some retellings, Amphitryon is the father of Ithacles. Heracles is obviously the son of Zeus, and you have these 2 twins. Hera, who is still very angry at Zeus because Hercules was still born.
He's probably fucked someone else at this point.
She's probably mad about that. She's still got a little angry towards Heracles. She ends up sending 2 snakes down into Heracles and Ithacles' crib, and they are stirring at their feet.
So you can take the story and you can swap it either way. I've heard it told both ways. The reason he's able to kill the snakes is because Zeus pulls the old throw the random baby on his wife's boob and let him suckle for a little bit.
Get to that.
Okay.
That's coming, because we got to explain how the stars come into all this. So the 2 snakes end up crawling up between Ithacles and Heracles thinks that they're toys, grabs them by the neck as soon as they go to bite him, these 2 poisonous snakes, and he squeezes the shit out of them and then ties them in knots. Alcmene can't figure out what's going on.
Does the same shit in the Disney movie.
Does he?
Oh, yeah, he takes them.
Okay.
I will say, what this is lacking is in the Disney movie, like Hades is the villain, and he's got these 2 little cronies, and it's the 2 little cronies, it's like their names are Pain and Panic. And one of them, I want to say, is Bobcat Goldthwait.
That doesn't hurt anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't do his voice. And then I can't remember who the other one is, but they actually, Hades sends them and they turn into the snakes, and Hercules does it and beats them together and ties them.
Okay. Alcmene coming in, seeing these 2 poisonous snakes that Heracles is just tied in a knot, freaks out, doesn't know what's going on. I'm not going to blame Alcmene for being a mom that's not paying too much attention, but after we have the whole snake incident, Athena...
Fucking god drama, man.
Athena would sneak down in the middle of the night. On Zeus's request, she would steal Heracles out of his crib, and they would take him up to Mount Olympus. And while Hera was asleep, Athena would set Heracles onto Hera's titty.
Yeah, I see them like going out, and Hera's like asleep on the couch, watching Real Housewives of fucking Athens or some shit, and she's just got a tank top on, and they're just like, you're gonna wake up, just pull it out and put him up there.
She might not even wake up. We don't know.
He latches.
You know how many times she's done this shit before? She might not even notice.
No kidding. He latches. He's getting a little bit of it and everything, and all of a sudden it switches to one of those commercials that's at an insanely different level of volume.
Throws it off.
Fucking wakes her up. She sees Athena and Zeus sitting there down there holding the baby up to her. She, rightfully in this case, I'm not going to blame Hera for this, freaks out. Doesn't she throw the baby?
She grabs Heracles by his ankle. She tosses him all the way off of Mount Olympus. And what is said was there was a little bit of milk that came out of Heracles' mouth as he was flying through the air. And that actually is what paints the Milky Way galaxy and the stars.
I heard it was a spray out of her, like she was pumping hard, and as he got pulled away, it just sprayed into the stars and created the Milky Way.
Yeah, so the Milky Way galaxy is actually Hera's breast milk. Of course, Hercules...
Offer me a better excuse that's going to explain why we call it the Milky Way.
Yeah, I can't tell you one. Athena, who's also in charge of getting Heracles back, has to run down and catch Heracles after he's thrown off of Mount Olympus, puts him back in the crib. The big deal about this, though, is...
Go fucking catch him!
In doing this, Zeus believes that he's just given Heracles immortality because he had suckled off of the teat of Hera.
So there's some other gods that are on Hera's shit list, but they're actually like full-blown god, full-blooded gods.
Yeah.
So you have Athena, who's the daughter of Zeus, but her mother was a different god. Then you had Apollo, I think, who was Athena's brother,
Yes.
but also with another woman, or I don't know if they were the same or they were twins or something like that, but both not from Hera.
Ares is a twin too, I believe, from somebody.
Ares, I think, is actually Zeus and Hera.
Oh,
because him and Hera get along pretty well.
There's so many A's.
No shit. You can't tell who Zeus is having kids with. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Alcmene and Amphitryon would basically try to raise Zeus as normal as possible, but it's really tough because
he drank that breast milk, and now all of a sudden he's strong as fuck. He's not invulnerable. He's not immortal, but he's the legend of what we know, like tougher skin. Like he's a jack fucking dude.
Yeah, and a couple of the things that I had listened to, talk about them describing him as square. He's just as wide as he is tall because his shoulders are so broad and he is so strong.
Always naked.
Yeah, well, he's Greek.
No, I understand that, but in any of here's the thing about the artwork. The artwork was not painted during that time frame.
Because it's like a picture of Jesus. It's
correct. But it's Renaissance shit because the musculature is so detailed and all that kind of stuff. They're always naked, but they always have a flowing sash flowing in front of their dicks or something like that. Unless you're getting a statue, which we'll talk about prior. If it's carved in stone, you leave the bone, I guess is what the motto is. But always fucking naked. And all he's got is just ribbons were everywhere in Greece, apparently, because there's always a ribbon to cover up the junk.
Maybe they're just bad at drawing dicks, bad at drawing penises.
But do you think that that's really what, when you think of Greece, you're like, you don't know for sure. Maybe they were naked all the time. But thinking about it, man, you're out there like in the woods hunting this shit down. You're going to have some shit. You're going to be covering your bits. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think these artists were just fucking perverts.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure all of them were. Depending on how you read it, in all of the myths, really, Heracles' major flaw is he always has a temper, or he is easily duped by Hera's tricks.
Not the brightest bulb.
No. There's multiple stories about how his lyre instructor, his music instructor, Linnaeus, would die at Heracles' hand. Some of my favorites are a little bit different from kind of the majority rule that I heard. Linnaeus was one of his instructors in school. He would constantly pick on Heracles, knowing that his father was Zeus and that Zeus had many indiscriminate love affairs and had killed many different people and all that kind of stuff. So
I've been a child of Zeus every month.
Yeah. He's
a dime a dozen kid. I imagine him like Mick from Rocky.
Yeah. Linnaeus does kind of seem to have that edge to him. There's a story one day where Linnaeus is asking Heracles if he can play the lyre any better than the worst lyre player ever because he's so strong, he just breaks strings with his fingers. It's very tough for him to do.
These giant sausages, these little strings.
Heracles would fly into a rage. He would throw his lyre at Linnaeus. It would hit and kill Linnaeus. This becomes an issue because no matter what story, Linnaeus always ends up dead at Heracles' hands.
I heard that he Jeff Jarretted him.
Got him with the stroke, the guitar?
Yeah, just took it and bashed him over the head.
There's another story where he had a minotaur for basically like a physical trainer that taught him all of his outdoor aerobics and that type of shit.
This is like some Percy Jackson and the Olympian shit.
Probably. Yeah. I have no idea. There was a weird tie-in that I got with that and with his last wife. We won't go into it, but just odd Percy Jackson connections into this. There was another story where he had a minotaur that taught him right from wrong and good from evil, and he ends up accidentally killing him along the way too. Not really a big story, but regardless.
Minotaur or centaur?
Centaur. What's the difference?
Minotaur is the bull man with like the head of the bull.
That's
like
right.
It's
right.
Like, it's a humanoid like with the bull head and everything.
He was Mantar in WWE.
Centaur is the body of the horse, torso up from a dude.
Okay. Yeah, so he was a minotaur or a centaur.
Yeah. He's a horseman.
But he kind of taught him this moral compass. We're going to talk about vice and virtue because it might be my favorite part of this whole entire thing. Regardless, Linnaeus is ended with a lyre at the hands of Heracles. There is a punishment that has to be made because it turns out that Linnaeus is actually one of Apollo's children, and Apollo's probably not going to take it too
See,
well.
all the gods, everyone be fucking.
Everybody's got it in, yeah. The punishment that kind of seems to follow along most of the stories is he is sent to the mountain where he's to watch over Apollo's flocks.
And let's really think about this. How many times would you have to only have sex at family reunions before you were like, I got to get out of this town and go explore the world?
I don't think they see it that way. I don't think there was ever really a thought of family or non-family in the Greek world back then. So while he's on this mountain and he's protecting these flocks, he actually ends up killing a lion for the first time in his life to protect his flocks. He becomes very good at what he does. He can only be released from this penance once he becomes an adult. For some reason, they used 18 too. There's a lot of shit over there that doesn't feel like you got to be 18 to do it, but somehow 18. Maybe that was later modern versions retelling it.
Yeah.
Before he ends up turning 18 and coming back, he's visited by these two women on the mountain. There's an absolutely beautiful blonde that's walking around in a silken robe and a silken tunic to where you can just see everything, and her hair is flowing in the air. Her eyes are beautiful. She seems so loose and so happy.
36, 24, 36.
Yep, absolutely. This is who Sir Mix-a-Lot was talking about. Then there's another woman who I believe was brunette and had brown eyes and seemed like she was put together a little bit more like Pam from The Office.
I like to imagine it's like Bombshell and then like a goth chick.
Still hot though.
Yeah, no.
Hot.
Yeah, I'm both are. Yeah, as I've gotten older, the darker. Yeah, I like that.
Get it.
Like going that way. But yeah, something he's got to have something. They don't know what he's into yet.
And the beautiful blonde asks him if he would love a life that was carefree and you could do what you wanted and everything was at your fingertips. And the goth woman looks at him and says, would you love everlasting glory even if it drug you to the depths of Hades? Mm-hmm. And Heracles kind of looks at them both and he's kind of going over things like, well, shit, does kind of sound cool to have whatever you want all the time and just get to indulge in everything. That would be awesome. But he remembers his centaur teachings of honor and respect.
He looks at the goth chick and he's like, kind of like this.
Yeah. Earning that love and adoration from the people. And he ends up saying, I would rather go to the depths of Hades and come up with the glory than have everything handed to me. And these two women end up walking away. As the blonde turns around, she goes, I think we could have had a great life together. And the goth turns around and she goes, we will have a great life together. And that was vice and virtue that had shown up to meet Heracles on the mountain and make an early decision in his life as to where he was going to go.
Virtue's a hot goth chick.
No. Oh, yeah. Virtue's a hot goth chick. Yeah. Of course, Vice is the blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman. It's just a wonderful retelling. So after this incident with Vice and Virtue, I guess not incident, he was probably pretty pumped about it because it was probably the first two women that he had seen in forever being on the mountain with the flock. I imagine he probably tried out some of his father's
hammered
tricks.
Himself,
yeah.
There's no pants to get in his way. It's just always there. It's just access. How did anybody in Greece get anything done? Well, it probably makes sense because it was only the dudes walking around naked.
Yeah, true.
But at the same time, it's Greece, so then, yeah, everyone's still hard all the time.
They were all looking at each other, so everybody was happy.
Just like little public, you know how they used to have hand sanitizer everywhere out in public? It was just olive oil, so they could just grease up whenever they needed to.
This was not extra virgin olive oil, that's for sure. Yeah. After his 18th birthday, upon returning to Thebes because he had served his penance, he would end up running into an army that was there to collect a tribute payment. When he left Thebes didn't owe any tribute payments to anybody else. Now that he's coming back and finding this army outside of town coming in to collect this tribute payment, he goes, that's probably not going to work for me. Mm-hmm. I am Heracles of Thebes, the son of Zeus. You will not go in there and steal from my people. The army said, what are you going to do about it? He put up his dukes. They would end up coming at him, and Heracles would summarily basically tear through an entire army of men.
I believe he did have the help of the Theban army, but they were like outnumbered.
It's
'Cause
a
there has to
real
be s-
Achilles type situation.
It is like there is continuity in the fact that like there is fear and like danger for Heracles during these labors that he's going to go through, and honestly, the labors are kind of the life of Heracles.
Yeah.
Like any way you look at his life, he spends so long doing these labors, and so while he is the main figure in these, he again is not immortal. So he will usually be always on the side that has the odds stacked against him, but because he is this demigod, he's always able to overcome.
Well, and there's also instances that we'll talk about in the labors where he has interactions with other gods and they are on his side. So
Help me!
they hear his story and they
It's like
just can't.
fucking MacGruber.
Yeah, there's no
What do you want me to
celery in his
fuck?
ass.
Yeah.
But once this war is over, Creon, the king of Thebes, was so happy with Heracles. He goes, "I got this smoking daughter. Her name is Megara. Pretty sick name, actually.
Hot goth chick.
Yeah.
He's like, yes!
I'm in. You can have my daughter's hand, Megara, and not only that, you will be handed the crown of Thebes once I pass."
So, Disney movie comparison. This is probably going to happen a lot during this
Yeah.
episode. Megara was a woman that was working for Hades. And
Oh,
she was
double
trying
agent.
to double cross Hercules, but she ended up falling for him. And then in the end, they ended up being together.
So Heracles has got a pretty good setup here. He's in line to be the king of Thebes. He got himself a smoking hot wife.
Starts pumping out kids.
Yeah, depending on the stories are insane. Just how far people try to go to one up themselves.
What did you get for numbers between the scale?
There was one. It was like 50 women he had impregnated in 50 nights.
That was an incident after he had killed that lion.
Okay.
And so that was when the king of that land had
Of Nemea.
so the wife, sorry, the king had 50 daughters. They all looked so close alike that Hercules was there for 50 days and he sent
Just
another
swapping them
daughter
in
in
and
there.
out.
And so Hercules just had these 50 other kids that I don't think are ever mentioned or that he knows about.
There's other stories that it's 50 women in a night. I mean, it goes on and on and on.
Hercules is a career pussy slayer.
Yeah,
And
well,
I
it's
mean that in all the ways you can say that.
the most respectful way possible.
No, not in sense. He kills the lion, and then he slays a bunch of kitties.
Yeah, okay.
Then later in this story, there's going to be another lion. I'm just saying, if there's a common theme throughout this entire Greek myth, it is that Hercules gets that cat.
And then he squeezes one to death, which makes it a little weird.
Yeah.
But so there's a lot of different iterations on
Puts
how
it in
many
a coma.
he did knock it into a coma. Heracles' children can range anywhere from all boys to all girls to a smattering of the two. Just to kind of line up one of his labors and something that might be my favorite story, I'm going to say that he had 3 daughters.
It was 2. They're like between 2 and 8 children. I'm like, you're already making this shit up. So just all agree on a number.
Yeah, just pick one. So he had 3 daughters, we'll say, with Megara.
He had a couple sons.
Yeah, but just to try to hold this together with the way I want to paint the Amazonian
Okay.
labor. 3 daughters. He has these fits of rage that we had talked about earlier. Some of them are induced by Hera. Some of them are induced by drunkenness. The Minotaur that was training him.
Just being jacked up on fucking Minotaur
Yeah,
urine.
well, he had told him never to drink alcohol. He had said that drunkenness is worse than a sin. You will not be able to control yourself in this rage. This is what happens. There's stories of Heracles just blacking out from wine and killing his entire family.
Remember, what's the wine called when it's super concentrated?
Fortified.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's, I think, another word for it that we learned. There's also these fits of rage that are induced by Hera that will cause him to black out. So whatever happens, he has a blackout. I'm sure the easiest way to tell this story is that Hera had induced some sort of dream that put him into a fit of rage. And when he comes awake, he had actually killed Megara and his daughters. And he looks down at his tunic and he looks at his hands and everything is blood soaked. He has no idea what happened.
So the kind of another, again, alternate version of that is that he comes home and Hera puts him into like a hallucinatory state.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes to his home where he's expecting to see his family. And all of a sudden he sees all of these like demons or monsters coming toward him. and he thinks that they have done something to his family and they're coming toward him because he's calling out for his family. They're actually his kids and his wife coming out. And so he immediately just grabs one and fucking kills it. The other ones see that, and because they're his wife and his kids, they turn to run away, and he's like, no, you fucking don't.
You're not getting away.
Because he thinks
my family's back there.
Yep. And he basically tears them apart. And the moment that he's done, the illusion ends. And I mean, again, the graphic version of it is just that there were pieces everywhere. Because this guy is insanely strong. He's smashing these monsters to pieces and ripping them apart.
Yeah, there's stories of him throwing them into fires. Regardless, Heracles just obliterates his family and comes to, realizes what's going on in his life, realizes that he needs punishment. He wants death. He wants to be with his family again after this rage subsides. And the gods have a decision to make, because obviously Hera is now doing the victory dance because she just really scored some big points, even though Zeus came on early with getting Heracles born and then sticking him on her tit. Hera ends up scoring big because now he's committed mortal sin by killing his entire family. So they're going back and forth on what a punishment should be. And supposedly in one of the tellings or renditions, it's brought to Hera's attention that Eurystheus is the High King and that he could use a slave. And if they put Heracles into bondage under Eurystheus, it will undoubtedly lead to his death. Mm-hmm. That Heracles will never make it out of there.
And the constant humiliation of having to work for that guy and take orders from him.
So Heracles goes ahead and passes that order down, whether it be to to Creon, his father-in-law, or the Oracle of Delphi, who just plays every story into this.
I like the Oracle version.
Yeah, the Oracle of Delphi will seek counsel with Hera. Hera will tell her the plan, or them the plan, whatever the Oracle is. I think it's a woman, actually.
Yeah, I can't remember what her name was, but...
we'll go with them.
He goes to her and he's like, how can I atone for this?
And she tells him exactly what Hera had told her, that he needs to go put himself into the indentured servitude under his cousin Eurystheus, the High King that was born early.
Pythia is her name. The Oracle. The Oracle? Yeah.
Okay. So... unfortunately, Heracles has to take himself all the way to
Mycenae.
Mycenae.
It is fortified wine. You're right.
Fortified wine? Yeah. Okay. As he meets up with Eurystheus becomes this slimy, kind of knock-kneed, arrogant prick that now sees his cousin Heracles under his control.
That's technically sitting on the chair that Zeus had intended for Heracles to sit on.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure Heracles, you'd think at this point, what his interaction level with Zeus was. I'm kind of curious about that. Because like in the Disney movie, Zeus literally waits for him to be like 18 and he left him with a medal that had Zeus's symbol.
Huh. It was a lightning bolt.
And so he goes to the temple and Zeus all of a sudden comes to life in his statue and he's like, you're my kid. And not once is Hercules like, where the fuck have you been? Like I've been struggling with this like anger and strength my whole life. I'm a freak.
I killed the shit out of Linnaeus with a lyre. Where were you on that one, Pops?
He's like, you're not grateful? Like what? And he's like, I guess, but like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah, I was on the side of the mountain for 5 years herding cattle, all because you couldn't show up.
Someone told me there were snakes in my fucking crib. Like, where were you on that one?
Oh, if you only knew about your stepmother Hera's
I was banging some other chick. I'm sorry. I have a disease.
Yeah, there's other tellings that Heracles doesn't find out that Zeus is his father until the labors happen. There's just so many different things. So for this rendition, we'll go that he knew that he was Zeus's son from the beginning, from the jump.
So the Oracle also informs him that if you actually do this, and I think she even kind of lists out, it's 12 years, I think is what she lists out.
Yeah.
You need to go and work for this dude for 12 years. You got to put in a couple tours. You're going to actually be immortal. You'll atone so much that you'll actually become immortal. And he's like, I fucking hate this dude. She's like, yeah. She's like, it's 12 years and you get to live forever and you get to be a god. And he's like, fuck. Okay, so he reluctantly agrees and he's off to Mycenae to find out what he's going to be doing. And at the same time, Hera's talking to Eurystheus and is basically just like, figure out some shit for him to do that's going to get him killed. Make these impossible tasks. John Wick his ass and give him an impossible task He won't come back. We'll be rid of him. So goes to Eurystheus. He's like, hey, what do you fucking want from me? He's like, it's funny you should ask. I hear you have a history of a cat slayer. So I actually got word from this guy in Nemea that there's been this lion that's just been killing all the guys he's been sent out to try to take it down. It's been like taking out villages and farm animals and all of this. Why don't you go up there and kill it?
Eurystheus, I think, must have missed a few family reunions and hadn't seen Heracles in a while.
Oh, yeah.
Because there were tellings that Eurystheus was so concerned with Heracles' size and his power and his strength that he actually had them create basically like a copper vase that he could hide inside of, just in case maybe Heracles went into a rage like he did and murked his family.
So after the first task, he comes back. Eurystheus doesn't think he's going to be able to do it. We're jumping ahead, but as you can imagine, we're on the first task, and there's 12 of them.
Yeah, we'll
he
fly
obviously
through
survives.
these,
yeah.
No,
I'm just saying he's alive.
Yeah,
and then I'm going to jump back. So he comes back from the first one. Eurystheus sees what he comes back with. He's scared shitless because at that point, Heracles comes into his court or whatever, his throne room, and he's so fucking intimidated that he was able to do this that he's like, we're going to meet outside from now on. And I'm not even going to get fucking close enough to you to be able to talk to you. You're going to talk through my intermediary here, whose name was like the Dung Man or some shit.
Look, they put a lot of creativity into this. Let's not.
So because they're meeting outside the gates, right outside the gates, he has his guys bury this big copper pot in the ground. It's recessed. So that way, if Heracles makes a move or tries to hurt him or he gets scared, he can jump in this giant fucking pot and be safe.
Doesn't really seem like the slave-slaver type relationship that
stand
you're
right
used
by
to.
the gate, man. Or stand up on the battlement. Don't come out.
Go out on the balcony.
You think this dude, a pot in the ground, is going to keep you safe from this dude?
No, he'll just smush the pot with you inside of it. So, to get back to the first labor of the 12, Heracles is sent to slay the Nemenian lion. The tricky thing about this Nemenian lion is it's about 2 to 3 times his size, Heracles' size.
I hate to be a pronunciation queen. Nemean.
Look, we went through Tunisia in the other episodes.
I know, we did. I'm sorry. Listen, here's the thing. I heard it so many times that I have to get it correct. And if you're saying something different, I can't stop saying Hercules half the time.
You work on Heracles.
I don't want to start saying Nemenian lion or any of that kind of stuff. Nemean. I'm going to catch shit for this, but I can tell you, this is my OCD kicking in.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, just remember, we're all sinners in this.
I understand
this game
that.
of pronunciation.
With all due respect, sir.
The Nemean. I'm trying.
I know. Just think, it's Nemean.
Nemean. The Nemean. There's an A in it.
There is Nemean.
Okay.
But you're closer saying Nemean.
Okay, Nemean then.
There you go.
Okay, the Nemean lion. Tricky thing about the Nemean lion is that its hide is so tough that it can't be pierced by any arrows, any swords, or anything along those lines. I almost pronounced the W in swords because I was worried about nailing that.
I like saying sometimes it makes you sound fancy. Sword fight. Crazy thing about this lion was that these beasts that Hercules, essentially the reason that Hercules is sent after these beasts is Hera kind of has a hand in creating and then putting these beasts out and around. And so she's coming down after he gets through these tasks. And now I can't think. Eurystheus is like, what do I do next? And she's like, I have this other creature out here. So the lion is a offspring of Echidna and Typhon. Echidna and Typhon were either titans or they were primordial gods or something like that. Some of the gods that were still in existence, like Oceanus, that was the ocean itself, but Poseidon was the god of the seas. Mm-hmm. So Typhon is, I think, a giant snake. And then Echidna is some type of conglomeration of it's a nightmare of creatures or whatever. So they make this lion. It's like
as those two things would.
Exactly. It's fucking Greek mythology, man. And the lion is found or given to the moon goddess Selene, who is also the one that Zeus got to keep at night for 3 days while he was going to Pound Town. So she is raising this lion, and she's raising it to be noble and good. And while it's living in this sanctuary that she's providing, she is shining these moon rays down on it every night, and the moon rays, being divine or something, are able to harden its skin. Hera then comes around and she's like, it's a pretty sweet fucking lion you got there. Can I borrow it? And Celine's like, I'd rather you didn't. She's like, listen, you're not even a goddess anymore. You're lucky we let you keep that title and keep controlling the moon. I'm the queen of the gods. I'm taking this fucking lion. I was asking because I was trying to be nice. She takes the lion, basically releases it on like the places that worship other gods. Other gods aren't happy about that. Hera doesn't want a city that's worshiping Athena or anything like that. So she'll set these creatures loose in these places she wants to terrorize. She turns this, what was previously supposed to be this noble beast who had these intentions, to now all of a sudden this fucking man-eating, blood-crazed, invulnerable monster, basically, or impenetrable monster. But if there's one man that can penetrate this lion, it's got to be Heracles, right?
Yeah. Heracles has himself an arrow full of quivers. He has himself a sword. He has himself a wonderful shield. None of these things are going to work against the lion. What he does have, though, is a club. And a strong man swinging a club can do a lot of damage.
Yeah. I think he's kind of the mind, because some of it's like he has a sword. That's how he finds out it's invulnerable. And they're like, no, he shoots it with an arrow, and that's how he finds out. And initially it's like, well, you can't cut it, so just fucking bash it. Yeah. I like to imagine he's the kind of man, like a D&D character, whatever weapons he's holding in his hand, he's got a bludgeoning weapon on his back.
Yeah, he's got a
slashing and a bludgeon.
He's got Charlie's rat stick.
Yep.
And he's just going to go beat the shit out of this lion. So he ends up supposedly waiting on this lion, sitting on the mountainside. He sees this lion going after prey. He jumps out, catches it by surprise, finds out that the arrows may not work, finds out that the sword doesn't work, pulls out the old rat stick, and he just goes to town on this lion. Ends up trapping it inside of a cave, and inside the cave, something about him firing arrows of light inside the cave to light it. He then spots the lion inside of it and kind of does an anaconda choke on the lion.
Yeah. It's much more theatrical in some of the Greek literature, I'm assuming. Falls it into a cave, rolls a big stone, of course, because he's got to have a big stone in the story, in front of one of the entrances, and he's like, I got the fucking cat trapped. So he's trying to go down the tunnel. He's trying to pen this thing in. It's dark. It's the lion's cave, so it knows what it's doing. And I guess in some of the versions, he tries to kind of be like, hey, you seem like you were once a noble creature and everything. The lion's like, nah, fuck you. And so the lion goes to charge at him. Heracles kind of gets down and dodges just to the side, bullfighter style, I think.
Yeah.
And as he does, wraps around the lion's neck, climbs onto its back, grabs onto its haunches with his knees, thus bringing the back of the lion to the ground, and then puts him, I like to imagine, like a Keith Strombo choker hold.
Who's Keith Strombo?
It's off of Big Daddy.
Chief J. Strongbow?
Is that who it was?
Yes.
Okay. Chief J. Strongbow? Yeah. Adam Sandler says it so fast, it sounds like Keith Strongbow. No. And I mean, that could have been a wrestling name in the 80s.
Yeah.
Chief O'King Strongbow. That makes so much more sense.
Chief J. Strongbow.
Chief J. Strongbow. Okay, that makes so much more sense. He gets him in a Chief J. Strongbow sleeper hold, and all of a sudden, guess what? Can't pierce the skin, but you don't got to pierce the skin when this thing can't breathe.
Crush the windpipe.
And this lion's tapping, and he's like, I'm sorry. It's got to go further than this. Crushes its windpipe. Lion's dead. But now he's got this sick-ass dead lion with impenetrable skin. I got to also prove it's true that I killed this thing.
Yeah, how am I going to carry this big bitch back to Eurystheus?
Well, he ends up carrying he fucking ends up carrying everything back to Eurystheus. But I think with the lion, he's like, I could just skin this thing.
Yeah.
Pulls out his knife, goes to skin it, knife breaks.
No good. Can't penetrate the hide.
He's like, he's looking around for something to be able to do this with. And Athena is an owl, right? Her animal form.
Sure.
Either sees an owl. Athena actually appears to him. Usually when she does this, she's not visible to anybody else. This will lead to situations in which you got to imagine Hercules is having a conversation. Everybody around him is seeing him talk to the air. So she's like, yeah, that doesn't seem to be working, does it? She's basically the smarter version. Yeah. She's also the goddess of battle strategy and then something, I can't remember what else it is. So she's sitting there and she's like, you know what? Those razor sharp claws have got to probably be good for something. Why don't you try one of those? Other version, she's like, the tooth, because both of them were described as sharp as swords.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Snaps one of them off, all of a sudden goes down, it tears through the flesh, skins the shit out of that bitch, turns it into a cape with the head over. Did you ever watch The Rock, Dwayne Johnson's Hercules?
No. I've never seen a Hercules movie.
That's kind of the only Hercules-esque thing about that movie, really. But he's basically wearing it to where the lion's head, with its like top jaw, bottom jaw removed, is as a helmet, and then the rest of it drapes on his back, which is now impenetrable. So this is now his armor.
I just see it as the panda in Tropic Thunder.
It's exactly that. Yes, it's exactly that.
And that's all the proof you need. But also at the same time, if you have put on
delicious panda,
if you put on the skin of an impenetrable skinned lion, all of a sudden that's the best armor you could ask for.
Oh yeah,
you fired bows and arrows at this shit. You swung the sword and couldn't even penetrate it.
So he's got to head back to Eurystheus at this point to actually show him that he completed this, find out what his next honeydew is going to be. Leave some previous armor that I think Athena had actually provided him when he was fighting for Thebes, when he took on the other army.
Yeah, and again, these are gods chipping in. These are gods pushing the favor in Heracles'
If like Zeus
favor.
isn't reaching out directly, but indirectly through Athena. Yeah. And Athena is also just like, I feel bad for this kid. Like, I'm trying to help him out. I know this chick, she's been on my ass for a long time, and the only reason she hasn't been on my ass more is because I'm technically a god. So she's got a hard on. She tricked this dude into murdering his entire family. Yeah, so he's going to get a little bit of sympathy. And while Hercules is a asshole in a lot of circumstances, he tries to do kind of tries to stay on the morally good side of things. He, will ask for assistance, even more so kind of as these labors go on. And so they're not, there's not a lot of, downside to trying to help him out a little bit. So goes back to Eurystheus. Eurystheus sees him walk in, basically realizes how dangerous this guy is because he's wearing this goddamn impenetrable lion as a hat now.
Pretty good brag.
And he's like, from now on, like we were saying earlier, don't come into the court anymore. I'll meet you outside the gates, talk to my assistant, and I'll be back here in my giant pot.
If you need me, I'll be in the copper pot in the corner.
Exactly. So not expecting him to come back from this, he's like, well, shit, what are we going to do now? Pulls out his phone, looks down at the list, texts Hera, hey, you up? Heracles just showed back up, which we didn't even touch on the fact that the whole reason they named him Heracles was to try to appease Hera, to be like, look, I fucked this other woman for you.
What is it? It translates into like glory of Hera?
Yeah, something like
which
that.
Which seems almost like a nose rub in one way or another.
Exactly. He did drink your breast milk.
Yeah.
That's why he's so strong.
You contributed.
Yep. So pulls it out. Hera's like, okay, I got this thing called the Lernaean Hydra. It's one of the most dangerous things that I've ever actually created. Go ahead and send him out to kill that. That should actually take him out.
Yeah, no, one of the things that we were talking about with the lion, something that we were kind of talking about in the warm-up, is the scale of these beasts gets blown out of proportions a little bit, I think.
I mean, that's also modern Hollywood and like portrayals of it and everything. Yeah. Hercules is big, or Jesus Christ, Heracles is a big guy. Probably, I would say he's always described as larger than a normal man. Normal men at that time, let's just say 7 feet. Yeah. They always size these creatures in Heracles's. So the Hydra is supposed to be like 2 of him, so 14 feet, between 9 and 1,000 heads. 1,000 heads would not fit on the size of this creature because they would be tiny. They would look like fucking worms, and then it wouldn't really be that dangerous. Yeah, so we're going to say scary. 9, but as everyone, can imagine, this is where we get the origination of cut off one head, 2 more take its place. This is the origination of that. Heracles has no idea that this is the case. He's just being sent out to kill this thing. So off he goes. In tow is his nephew, Aeolus.
Yeah, you gotta have a sidekick.
Yeah, who's like, Heracles, take me with you. He's like, I'm going out to kill this like crazy ass beast. Like, no, you're not going. He's like, oh man, it's okay. I can take care of myself. I'll help you out. He basically becomes his like squire, is kind of what it is, or his scrappy do.
Yeah, to push through this in a way that I think we could probably connect this to the story. Old Lady Hall passes. Lucy Lawless for you. The old woman Carter that does Wonder Woman.
Oh, Linda Carter.
Yeah, Linda
Oh, hell
Carter
yeah.
for me. I think Lucy Lawless for you's a solid pick.
That's right. That's the only good thing that actually ever, it's not the only good thing that came out of the Hercules show. The writing and everything like that. That show got me through many a summer mornings while I was eating breakfast on the USA Network. Xena is the best thing to ever come out of that show. Lucy Lawless hit me up. But Aeolus is the thing that I took away from that is the actual pronunciation of that. So off they go into this swamp. It's near Lake Lerna, near Argos. And basically, the whole time they're traveling out there, Heracles is like, go home. Go home. Like, I don't want to be responsible for you dying and everything. I can take out whatever this is. Like, it's not going to be a big deal.
You represent my mortal side. If this thing's going to kill me, it's definitely going to kill you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's going to go after you first.
Uh-huh. Ithacles is going to be very angry if I get his son killed.
Yeah. So they end up stumbling upon this thing out in the swamp. It ends up, waking up. I don't know if they end up like trying to shoot at it or anything like that, but its 9 heads come up. Basically think of them as like anaconda, probably sized heads. They can breathe fire. They can spit this insane poison that if the poison touches you, or does it have to get into a wound?
I thought it was if it touches you, but again, these are all punched up stories.
The way that it's described, I think it's more akin to the if it touches you.
Yeah.
So, and all of these heads have these, the ability to do this stuff. So he's like, okay, I'll just have to dodge out of the way of all these heads. I can still kill this thing. So he goes club or sword. There's stories that label it both ways. He's either chopping off heads or he's knocking off heads. But as he knocks off the first head, he goes to go ahead and take on the others, and he hears this sound. These bones are cracking and everything. He turns around, all of a sudden, 2 more heads sprout out of this thing. He's like, shit, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep chopping off or knocking off these heads. So after kind of backpedaling and trying to figure out a strategy on this, Aeolus had kind of like looked like he had kicked rocks. He had finally listened and got the fuck out, which a person should do if all of a sudden this creature wakes up and it's got all these giant snake heads and it's shooting acid and poison and fire. I'm heading the other direction. What he was actually doing is he was finding a bunch of branches or a branch and making a torch out of it. Runs up to Heracles and is like, hey, told you I could be of use. After you lop off the head, I'll take this thing, I'll cauterize the wound, nothing can grow out of it. So let's get to work.
Yeah, odd surgical knowledge to have for the storytellers back then.
They knew that 2 men having sex with a woman within a very short time frame of each other could create 2 children. You think that they didn't know about cauterization? That was the main mode of health. Of like, I got to chop off a limb. What do you have to do? Then we have to take this really hot piece of metal and put on it.
We're going to cook your leg like we cook the other stuff.
Plug your nose or you're gonna smell yourself.
And this strategy works really well. He starts lopping off these heads. Aeolus is running up there. He is cauterizing these wounds.
Torch.
Hera sees what's going on, and she sees that this is maybe not going in her favor, so she throws down this massive crab. This crab does not do shit because Heracles steps right through it and kills it immediately, goes back to working up the Hydra.
It's when all of a sudden the wrestler runs down, and everyone's like, he's going to run the match. The guy gets up and literally just tosses him out of the ring like he's nothing, and then
Stone
gets back
Cold
down.
Catches him with a stunner and goes back to work.
Yep.
So he ends up coming out on top of this deadly 9-headed Hydra that who knows how many had grown heads back since he had cut them off before they were cauterized.
The immortal head, that one main head that had to be, that it actually wouldn't like die. You lop it off, the head is still alive. Kind of in the same way that I think like Ghidorah in Godzilla was. He basically is like, okay, if this thing's not going to die, he digs a big hole, buries it, and puts this giant fucking rock on top of it.
Don't hate it. That makes sense to me. Snakeheads still do that. You can chop off a snake's head. It can still move
That's true.
his jaws. So
Get another reason why they're fucking spawn of the demon.
Awful.
He also takes out all the arrows that he has for a bunch of them, and he's like, this blood is insanely poisonous if it touches you, and just dips a shit ton of the air, because apparently these arrows never run out.
And never mind that I'm going to be carrying them on my back near my skin, and this could potentially cause an issue with me. It really doesn't quite make sense, but at the same time, it's very important to the story. So after this goes down, Hera sends someone down to fetch this crab that Heracles had stomped through. She looks at this dead crab, says, "You're a waste to me," and she throws it up into the sky, and as the crab hits the sky, it turns into stars, and this is where we get the Cancer constellation. We're going to keep running into these star constellations.
This guy This crab is around for 15 seconds before he gets just completely obliterated. And Hera's like, I feel bad about the crab. Just chucks it up in the air, and all of a sudden it's in the stars.
We're going to commemorate the unwilling, shitty participant in this fight. But at the same time, Heracles is going to be marching back to see Eurystheus, and now he's got these dipped arrows that could come in very good handy, or could come in handy really at any other time.
We're going to find out that everyone is scared shitless of these arrows once word gets out.
And they are effective.
So heads back to Eurystheus is basically like, okay, the many-headed snake thing is dead. What am I doing now? He's like, all right, we got to he's like, hold on a second. Who's this? He's like, well, this is my nephew. He's like, oh, did he help you? And he's like, he just like went with me. He's like, did he carry anything of yours? A sleeping bag?
A torch?
Food? A torch? He's probably telling me, he's like, how did you do it? And he's like, yeah, we burned it and then we did. He's like, well, who burned it?
Who's we?
Yeah. Like the royal we, man. But basically it's like, violation, this labor doesn't count. This doesn't count as one of your labors. He's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Slayed the Hydra and it's not even going on the board.
But at this point, he's like, okay, killing these things is obviously, I've been going about this all wrong. Killing it is the least dangerous thing I can have him doing because he's able to try to kill it from a distance, or he doesn't have to try to be careful around it. I need to have him capture something.
Let's try to rotate this away from killing him to just a long, drawn-out, impossible hunt to capture something.
Not only that, we might be able to have someone else step in and do our dirty work as well if we pick the correct target. So for his third labor, Eurystheus sends him after the Ceryneian hind. And the Ceryneian hind is basically a giant fucking deer with antlers that are almost like caribou-ish, but like very, very large. They're golden. It's got hooves, I want to say like bronze or copper.
Yep.
And this thing is like the favorite pet of Artemis. And Artemis, goddess of the hunt, she doesn't really have a... she's also one of the ones I think I mentioned earlier that's also not really Team Hera, but she's super protective about these animals. And so
she created this thing.
Yeah. So their thought process, this is like her, this is her pinnacle. This is her baby. If Hercules has to try to harass this thing, if he accidentally kills it, she's going to totally kill him. He can't stand up to her. She's a full god. So they send him after the Ceryneian hind. It's supposed to be the fastest creature. They're hoping he's going to have to cover such a distance. It's going to go ahead and take up so much time. It'll weaken him and maybe something will happen that way. So after this long search, he ends up finding it, but then has to chase this thing for a year.
Yeah. I don't know if our stories of what we researched crossed over here, but I absolutely love this story because in the versions that I read, he was out on the hunt. He was chasing this thing for a year. He could never find it. It was so elusive. So he gets this brilliant idea to walk to the sea and to collect salt out of the sea, and then to walk around to all of the different water resources that are within the forest and to salt that water until you get down to one last pond. And then he just went ahead and built himself a deer blind to catch this golden deer, and he hid up there.
He tried to craft himself a salt lick.
No, that would have been smart too.
Yeah.
But either way, if you salt all the other waters in the forest, nobody else has, or no other animal has a place to go to get a drink. So eventually the deer will find the pond that's pure. And if you stake that out, you're going to run into this golden deer. The golden deer ends up not being exactly what it was told or what was foretold, because it would eventually come to the unsalted pond. Heracles would then throw a net over the top of it. As he got closer, he realized that the golden rack that was supposed to be on this deer was just the velvet that was shimmering in the light. Mm-hmm. And Eurystheus probably is going to want the golden rack on this deer just for posterity, for a little bit of money, just to try to send this thing to the glue factory. And at one point in time, Heracles says,
this thing's going to go on his wall.
Yep. It's a shame that you may end up glue somewhere, which they must have known that you can get glue from this thing somehow. The hooves end up not being bronze. They've just been, I believe it was dyed in the, something in the forest had dyed them as this deer had walked along. Same time, You got to bring this thing back live because that's what Eurystheus wants. You can't just skin it like you did the lion. You got to carry this thing back. And as he begins to carry this thing back, it starts to calm down in his arms after some initial fight. And then all of a sudden he looks to his left and Artemis shows up.
With Apollo. I like to imagine them as they just hang out together. They're like a Dennis Reynolds situation.
Yeah, I can see that.
So
the Golden Gods.
Yeah. So Artemis is like, hey, what you doing? He's like, so yeah, I know this looks bad. She's like, yeah, it does. Listen, I got to do this shit for, this asshole I almost said Eurystheus.
Eurystheus.
Eurystheus, Jesus. The names blend together.
Oh, yeah.
Further into we get Eurystheus. Listen, remember the time when I murdered my entire family? They're like, yeah, they still talk about it up on Olympus. That was bad.
We watched it.
Listen, I'm trying to atone. There's this deal where I got to work for this asshole for 12 years. I'm trying to do my job, please. I'm not going to kill it. I'm not trying to kill it. I just want to show him I caught it. That was the whole deal. And then I promise I'll release it. No harm will come to this thing. She's like, you know what? Fine. I'll go with it. He's kind of like, seriously? And she's like, yeah. She's like, if it comes to harm, I'm going to fucking kill you. But if you do what you say you're going to do and you'll release the thing after, you show proof of that you captured it, go right ahead. He's like, fantastic.
We know what Hera did to you.
Oh, we're in the same boat. We know what a bitch she is. And so, yeah, we want to pull one over on her. If we can try to get back at her indirectly, we'll definitely do that. So he ends up taking it back to Eurystheus, and Eurystheus is like, I want it. I think I want it now. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep it from a menagerie, and, I'll just do whatever I want with it. Heracles is like, I like to imagine doing the Steve Carell lip bite thing. He's like, yeah, okay. So the thing's kind of hogtied.
Mm-hmm.
Heracles is holding the rope. He's like, he holds out the rope, and he's like, come and take it then. I guess it's yours. And as Eurystheus walks toward him and reaches out his hand, Heracles drops the rope. It was all that was holding it taut to keep its legs together. This thing kicks out. Springs to life. Starts running around. I like to imagine this thing just trashes the fuck.
Oh, yeah.
But being that it's outside and he's no longer allowed in the throne room, probably didn't happen, but it scares the shit out of Eurystheus. This thing just bolts and no one's going to catch it. It took Heracles a year to do it. And he just looks at Eurystheus. He's like, oh, I thought you were faster than that. And so,
come on, cousin.
Yeah, exactly. So now Eurystheus is pissed. Hera's been made to look bad because he did capture it.
Yeah.
And kind of everyone's, it's all coming up aces for Heracles at this point, except he's still got, 10 of these things left, or 9.
Yeah. And when it comes to number 4, Eurystheus goes back to his maps. He's looking around. He's trying to find something. And the deer did do a decent job. I mean, it took a year for him to capture this thing.
Yeah.
So you probably want to choose another time-consuming labor. And you see this thing that is roaming the countryside, just terrorizing everybody. It is named the Erymanthian boar.
Got it, buddy.
The Erymanthian boar takes up an area that is also, again, this is just one of the stories, but it's kind of fun. If you tie into the Minotaur. No.
Centaur.
The Centaur.
Horseman. Just say man.
The horseman that was his teacher. There is a group of horsemen that live in the same area as this boar. As he goes back, he tries to reconnect with his old teacher. He sees his teacher. His teacher runs the other direction. He becomes concerned because he doesn't know why you can't catch up to him. He runs into another horseman, asks him about it, and he goes, he loves you. He wants to come see you. He will be here later. Heracles goes, oh, that's cool. Well, let's have a drink. And the horseman says, no, he actually said that you would drink again. And if you do drink again, there will be another rage incident.
This is another snatch and grab job, too. He's not supposed to kill this boar. He's meant to. They figured at this point, the capturing takes longer. It's riskier. Yeah. Let's stay with that. Let's just assign another animal.
Yeah. So he's hanging out.
Is it Pholus? Is the friend that he meets, the centaur that he'd known before.
Yeah.
And centaurs had, aside from Pholus and Chiron, I think is the other one, that was like his mentor and everything.
That sounds right. Yeah.
So other than that, the centaurs are mostly they're kind of painted as a more like primitive kind of like tribal people. They don't use bows and arrows or anything. They use like clubs and things like that. So kind of the outliers are these people that Heracles has a relationship with. And like you were saying, guy's not supposed to be drinking. He looks over, he sees this jug of wine that's unsealed, and he's like, well, what about that right over there? And he's like, no. He's like, that was gifted to the centaurs by Dionysus. We have strict
God of
instructions. Yeah. That's only to be shared with all of the centaurs when they're all here. To open that is one of the greatest offenses if you're not, everyone's not around. And Heracles is like, yeah. He's already holding it. He's like, yeah, cool. And just pops the top. And this is like, again, fortified wine. So basically this is hard alcohol and a big ass fucking jug of it.
Tyron said that I would drink again. I might as well not make him a liar.
Mm-hmm.
Ends up beginning to drink. And as Pholus realizes what's about to happen, because in one telling the last time he went into a drunken rage, he murdered a bunch of people. Pholus takes off. Heracles drinks himself into another just blackout rage, comes out of the cave that they were sharing, and Tyron is coming up towards him. There's words exchanged about him saying that he would drink again and that it was foretold that this would happen, and Heracles pulls out one of these Hydra-dipped arrows and fires it and hits Tyron. And Tyron, who was formerly an immortal being, the only thing that can kill him the only thing that can kill him is nothing, but he will suffer as this serpent's poison works its way through him.
Yeah, it's like it's a continuous feeling of death or what would kill you, but you're unable to die.
Yep.
It's kind of the same thing Prometheus plays into this.
Mm-hmm.
So
we'll get to him. He's got a story.
So again, there's dual versions almost of all of these labors in which different characters, different events. There's ones in which Heracles falls back into being essentially kind of more of that villain role, like that one. There's also versions where he shows up, Pholus is there. He still ends up opening the wine. He gets to that point. The smell of it is able to kind of like all the centaurs actually pick up on the smell, and they're so pissed off. They end up coming in. They end up starting a fight. Yeah, that's our fucking wine. There's other stories that say that it wasn't so much that they came in, but they also came in and drank the wine. They weren't used to fortified wine because they don't normally drink. People were drunk. They got into a fight. It ends up with Heracles ends up killing a lot of these centaurs. Yeah. And during this, he goes to fire one of these poison arrows. Chiron is showing up to
not Tyron. Chiron.
You're fine, man. See, I'm gonna ease up on it. I'm mellow now. It's kind of one of those situations. He's firing arrows. One of them sneaks through a whole bunch of guys. Chiron is showing up in the back to be like, what the fuck is going on here? He takes an arrow. And as he's going over to Chiron, he's like, oh my God. He's like, I just fucking didn't kill, but kind of killed my friend here. Pholus ends up pulling out and he's like, what the fuck are these things? You're killing all the centaurs. Yeah.
It's a hollow point, man.
He's like, what are you killing all these centaurs with? He's like, this stick with this tiny thing on the end of it, and he drops it accidentally. It scrapes against his leg and he's dead. So in that fight alone, Heracles ends up losing what was kind of a father figure mentor to him, and then one of his other longtime friends.
Yeah, he ends up actually releasing Chiron though, as he was immortal and he was stuck in this feeling of death. He looks up to the heavens, he looks up to Mount Olympus, and he says, Zeus, if I am thy son, please grant me my birthright. My only birthright is to release Chiron from his pain and suffering. And he grabs Chiron by the hoof, and he launches him up in the air, and Chiron breaks up into this star cluster.
Oh, is that
what released?
Is that what that star cluster is? Mm-hmm. Isn't there supposed to be a centaur or something like that star cluster?
Yeah, so we're right back into mapping the stars again with Greek gods.
So, milk to create the Milky Way.
Yep.
And then we just start chucking dead bodies of creatures up there to create the constellations.
Create Cancer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, and I mean, you spend so much time looking at the stars and you have people asking about it. It's a beautiful way to tie it into a story that everybody's going to hear to understand.
Yeah. So Hercules is sitting in the midst of all of this destruction, dead friends, and he's like,
all of this horsemen.
You know what I was thinking about? So someone stumbles upon this murder scene, right?
Yeah.
Except, let's imagine Heracles was using like a sword, and he's cutting these guys right in half, right at the torso. The detectives show up on this, CSI style, and they're like, oh my God, someone murdered a bunch of dudes and took their legs, and someone murdered a ton of horses and took their heads.
Someone murdered a bunch of guys riding horseback and then stole their heads and legs. This makes no sense. What happened here?
The perfect crime. So I gotta imagine Heracles is just sitting there and he's like, I gotta go get the pig.
Yep, did it again. Yep. Gotta go redeem myself again.
Yep. So pig time. So he ends up going, chases the pig. He gets advice before either Chiron or Pholus dies because they're talking about it. And he's like, why don't you just chase it into some snow? Like, the pig will get it in snow. It can't really run that fast. You can get on top of it. He's like, fantastic. So he ends up doing just that. Chases this giant boar with these giant razor sharp tusks into the snow. The thing starts to tire out and slow down. Does the same thing. Jumps on top of it. Ties its legs. Chucks it over his back. And he's like, all right, back to my cine. So as he arrives, there's this giant boar on his back. This thing is kind of freaking out and everything. Yep.
Still very much alive.
As Eurystheus sees this, straight to the jar. Doesn't even take any time. Lids off. He's in. And Heracles thinks this is hilarious and walks all the way up and basically takes the pig and holds it down to where its face is right at the edge of the jar and is just like, is this the one you wanted? I can't, you're not talking to me. You need to tell me if this is what you wanted.
I clap once for yes, twice for no.
Mm-hmm. So he's like, yeah, that's the one. So he ends up just releasing it and it just runs over all of these so far are in the Peloponnese. So we talked about that during, I think, the Persian episode. We definitely talked about it during the
Hannibal Barca, the Peloponnesian War.
Yes, and Sparta when we did that episode. So the Peloponnese is that area that's just that island kind of down to the bottom left of Greece, where Sparta is and where the Peloponnese region. So all of these tasks or labors have taken place up to this point in that region.
Yeah, it's kind of a Bermuda Triangle, except for it's between the Iberian Peninsula, Libya, and then up into Greece.
Pretty much. So he comes back, he ends up releasing the pig, I think, and then all of a sudden now we come to his fifth labor. And Eurystheus is like, okay, enough with the creatures.
The physical tasks he is very good at.
If it's a living thing and he has to kill or capture it, he's 4 for 4.
Yep.
He's knocking this thing out of the park. I caught him on a technicality on that, but I can't keep doing that. So what is it that we can do here? Let's humiliate the fuck out of this guy. So what we're going to do is we're going to send you up to the realm of King is it Aegis?
Yes.
Aegis. And you're going to go ahead and clean out the Aegean stables. Now, you hear that, and you're just like, if anybody lives, even out in the country, in rural areas, you talk about the stables, unless you're on a full-blown ranch, stables will hold a few horses, maybe a dozen if they're a larger size. The Aegean stables were the size of a small city. They were, I think there was 1,000 cattle. These were divine and immortal cattle, so you're not losing any. It had been 30 years since it was last cleaned, and there were over 1,000 of them.
It smelled so bad that Aegeus had basically kept building castles to try to further himself from the stables because of the smell. When he actually comes to meet with Aegeus has melted wax shoved up his nostrils to stop from being able to smell this smell. And these animals hadn't been let out in so long. One of the source materials said 3,000 animals. I feel like that's still not enough.
Regardless of the number, it's a city-sized stable filled with 30 years worth of cow shit. They said when he was looking at it, he thought there were creatures underneath it, and then upon closer inspection, it was the maggots that were crawling like a living blanket across all of it. Now, part of the kicker here is that he can't touch this. Something about touching this type of muck or something like that would either he would lose his honor, like divinity, or
disease
something.
Fest.
Yeah. And so he's trying to figure out a way to go about this. And as he's talking to King Aegis, he's basically like, you know what? I'll clean this thing in a day. And he's like, oh, okay. He's like, no fucking way. He's like, I'm so sure I will clean this thing in a day. If I do it, you owe me 10% of your land. and I get 10% of these divine cattle that have been making all this shit that I'm about to clean up. Guy's like, deal. Like, obviously you're not going to do this. I'm going to be able to say that you couldn't live up to your hero hype and that you're not the greatest, hero in Greece. Go right ahead.
Because you couldn't clean these stables in a day. This feels like it's kind of an Ephus pitch. And the whole idea of like the strength and numbers that he's putting up to just pull him back to basically janitorial duty in an impossible barn filled with duty.
Yeah, he's going to not only embarrass him that he can't complete a task, but during trying to do this task, he's going to be hoping he's going to get covered in shit. But it's going to be just the demeaning aspect of having to clean out these stables and not even being able to do that successfully. So it's kind of a double whammy.
Hera be damned, though. Heracles is Heracles. He walks down to the stables. He kind of sees just how bad this job is going to be. He starts walking around the valley looking. I believe he walked up one side of the valley, and he sees this super strong flowing river.
You're also in a situation where he's solo right now. He needs a sidekick.
Yep.
Enter Phileus. Phileus is the outcast son of King Aegeus, and Phileus kind of runs at on a different wavelength.
Smart boy.
Yeah, he's smart. And so the king doesn't like smart. So he's hanging out with Heracles, and they're walking around. Heracles sees a river, and he's like, okay, hold my beer. He walks over, and he lifts up and repositions this insanely huge rock. And by moving it, he's able to divert the river and start flowing it toward the stables. So doors are open in the back. And as it's moving through, he's like, it's not going to be enough PSI. There's like 30 years worth of shit in here. He's like, I got to up the pressure.
The trench can only be so big.
Yeah. So he looks across the valley and he's like, oh shit, there's another river across the valley. Goes over there and basically kind of walks up on this loose section. He's like, okay, stomps on it, causes a landslide. It diverts the river. Now you got these two rivers flowing into the stables. They wash all the shit out and wash it out to sea. As it's on its way out to sea, the fields that had previously been untenable and ungrowable because of not only the stench, but of all the liquid leaking out and like making the crops, it disperses all of the manure and fertilizes
fertilizer, baby.
All of a sudden, this place is going to go ahead and grow all of this crazy shit. And Heracles is just like, yeah, job well done.
Place is clean, looks nice.
Spick and span. Crazy fact is, when it was back at that time about like the Titans, things like that, rivers were their own individual gods. So these rivers are actually gods. So he's redirecting these two gods and he's like, clean this shit.
Greek mythological fact.
Mm-hmm. So all the people have shown up. They're like, oh, Heracles, he's fertilized the fields. He's cleaned the stables. He saved the day. And everyone's like, huzzah. And Aegis comes out and Heracles is like, 10% and 10%. We had a deal. And he's like, we didn't have a deal. No way.
Part of Aegis's beef with this deal was the roof of the stables still was in disarray and beat to shit because he cleaned it. He didn't go through and, remodel the stables to make it look good.
Yeah.
He says, that's not clean. You have to go through and rethatch the roof and do everything else. And Heracles goes, no, dude, I cleared out the bulk of this. It's very nice now. You can send somebody down there to fix this.
He's like, it can be a shanty that's dirty.
Yeah.
I can clean it out, but repairing the shanty is not part of the deal here. Another part of it is that Eurystheus had gotten a hold of Aegis and was like, yeah, he's actually doing these for me. He's working for me and doing these.
And doing them well.
Yeah, and Aegis is like, you were already being paid for this by Eurystheus. You were in debt to him that you're having to do this. So that makes our deal null and void.
We don't pay slaves.
Yeah, no kidding. So as Heracles is sitting there, he's starting to get pissed. He's looking at that club. He's like, I'm just going to bash this old man's head in. Athena pops up and she's like, slow down. You need to go ahead and use your brains in regards to this. You need to be able to talk to these people and sway them to your side. And he's like, I can't talk. And this is the situation I imagine when there's everybody gathered around. He's just talking to nothing to the side of him. And she's like, that's the only way you're going to get out of this. You got to actually use your brains for once. So Heracles is like, Court. I want to go to court. Litigation. I want to take this to the people's court. So all of a sudden, cue the theme music. Dun 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 dun. Honorable, Judge Judy is presiding. The defendant, the plaintiff are going to go and make their case. Aegis comes up there and he's like, hey, there wasn't even actually a deal. He was actually being paid to come in here and do that. Why would I make a deal when he was already being paid to do this? Do you have any witnesses? Anyone that saw the deal? And the people are like, oh, good point. He doesn't have any witnesses. Heracles is like, hold on a second. He looks in the back of the room.
I know somebody.
And he's like, I see him. Phileas is there. And guess what? Phileas just happened to have been a witness. He had been in the room when they had made the deal. He comes up and he's like, good people. Good people. This man cleaned the shit. My father, the shitbag himself.
Full of shit.
Told him he could have 10% of the land and 10% of the cattle. Gasps all across the audience.
It's the prince.
Yes, exactly.
The prince wouldn't lie.
All of a sudden, eyes turn to the king. Obviously, the deal has been struck. He's fulfilled his side. Give the man his land and his cows. Aegis is like, as the king, thus overseeing or superseding the courts in this land, I say no deal. I'm making an official ruling. And I say that thus far, both Phileas and Heracles are banished from the land. And so they're sent packing. With the labor complete, coming back to Eurystheus to be like, I cleaned the shit. He's like, but did you clean the shit? He's like, yes, I cleaned the stables. He's like, but did the rivers clean the stables? And I imagine he looks over and there's just two kind of like humanoid bodies of water sitting there that had come to report the two rivers. And it's like, yeah, he made us do it. He forced us into the shit to clean it up. We had nowhere to go. So, doesn't count. Eurystheus decrees that this one doesn't count. So this is where we get the two that don't count. And so getting us up to the 12 that, we'll eventually get to.
Yeah, the telling that I heard was a lot less flattering towards Heracles. It ends with Aegeus telling Phileas, his son, that he has betrayed him for helping Heracles do this, and that he will not be turning over the bounty of Heracles for completing this task. Heracles grabbed his club and he bashed Aegeus on the head and he threw him over one of the cattle that was roaming around the area that he had just cleaned. Mm-hmm. He slapped it on the ass and he ran off and he looks at Phileas. He goes, "You're king now. Your dad's gone."
I didn't know if that happened right after, but I did hear about that part. So yeah, either he did it right after or he came back around and he's like, he's just traveling back through town. Mm-hmm. He's like, I wonder if this fucker's still alive. Finds out he is. He's like, I'm here. Yeah. I'll just sneak in and kill him. Phileas.
Might as well.
Yep.
So we go back to, I guess, tests of skill of Heracles with number 6. Eurystheus is looking at his board and he's crossed the bull off. He's crossed the lion off.
No, not the
boar off. He's crossed the boar off. He's crossed the lion off. He crossed the hydra off.
The hind, the shit.
The deer, the shit.
Okay, what have we not? We've explored land. Hydra was kind of a swamp, so sea. We're going to the air.
Got to go to the air, yep.
We're going to the air. So we're going back to a kill mission at this point, and he needs to go get rid of the Stymphalian birds. Now, these Stymphalian birds are kind of the stuff like most Greek creatures are. They're the stuff of nightmares. It takes an existing creature and just flips it on its head to basically make it into a man-eating killer.
Is it Little Nicky that has the big crows that sexually assault?
Yes.
Who is it?
That
it's not Winkler. Winkler gets the bees.
Yeah. Oh, I can't remember.
That's exactly what I thought of when I heard about these Stymphalian birds. They were just giant birds that'll just run up on you.
Like Night at the Roxbury? On
Yeah,
each side
and you got the big black feathers and the giant beaks.
Look that up. Because now I'm curious. I'm not going to be able to think of anything else while I'm trying to talk about this. So these things were, I want to say, bred by Artemis, but then co-opted by Ares to turn them into basically these terrifying like beasts of war. So these things have a taste for human flesh, as these creatures tend to do. Man-eaters, they are bronze-beaked. And instead of just your regular run-of-the-mill standard bird feathers, you actually have these metal feathers that can also be launched out, a la X-Men and all kinds of whatever comic book characters have metal wings usually have a feature where they can launch out the feathers made of metal. Yeah, these things can do that too. So Heracles goes to this town. The town is, I want to say it's either in the region of Stymphalia or something like that, but this town is being terrorized by these birds.
These birds are not only killing the people in the town, they're going through and raiding the farms and taking up anything that they can around the area and destroying everything.
So he ends up tracking them down. He goes into this little forest thicket and he's searching around. He ends up seeing one of them, but then as his attention focuses, he notices that the trees are moving not because the leaves are swaying, but because they're just packed with all of these birds. And they're not insanely big. They're probably maybe like 2 feet.
Yeah.
If they're standing. So they're still
mean.
Terrifying birds.
That's
but,
a big bird.
Yeah. And as he's kind of backing away, all of a sudden he sees these metal spikes hit the ground. He's like, the fuck was that? And he looks up and one of these birds kind of puffs out its chest. And as it like expands, it launches a few more. So he's like, okay. And he pulls out his bow with all the poison arrows, shoots it. Here's a ting. The bird's just sitting there. He's like, how's this? This thing kills everything.
Isn't good.
Shoots it again. Ting. Arrows just bouncing off it. It's not penetrating. So he's staring at this thing. It kind of, when birds go under their wings to fix stuff.
Yeah.
He notices an area that he probably could hit that's a little softer, but these things aren't flying. They got their wings tucked up underneath them. And as he's kind of like retreating out of this area, he runs into Athena again.
That's who it was.
And she's like, you're going the wrong way. They're back that way. And he's like, have you been in there? Like, I don't have anything that can beat them. They're these metal death birds that are launching knives at me. And
deal.
She's like, well, what do you want to do? He's like, I need to get them up where I can get a shot under, under the tender sections, the soft gooey bits. And she's like, hold on a second. She's kind of like reaching in her bag. And she's got like I imagine she has one of those like Lululemon fanny packs across her chest.
Probably.
She's opening, there's like lip gloss and shit. She's like, try this. And she pulls out this giant set of bells, which I imagine are like, they're attached to this giant chain, 2 on each end. And she's like, okay, let me see. And she bangs them together and he turns around and he sees a couple of the birds flying out of the trees. She's like, this should suffice. Hands it to him. He walks over there, strong as shit. Bangs them together, it makes this insane noise, and all of a sudden, the birds just start flapping their wings and trying to fly out of the trees. He just starts rapid firing with this bow. This bow is also, I want to say, gifted to him by... It might have been... him and Ares don't get along. Apollo, it might have been, but it never missed. So he's just dropping these birds. Ends up dropping like a ton of them, and then the other ones are so scared they immediately flee the area. And then I want to say they reappear further in Greek mythology in the stories of like the Argonauts or something like that. So these Greek, when you're writing another story, you go back into the 12 Labours and you say, what creatures are still alive that we can use here? These fucking birds, some of them got away.
Yeah, the story's been told time and time again. Why don't we try to bring a little legitimacy to ours?
The birds that almost defeated Heracles. Yeah. That's a great villain for our new story.
Absolutely. John Lovitz.
Yeah.
John Lovitz was the man that got molested by the birds in Little Nicky. He was the pervert that was sitting with the binoculars, and he calls himself a horny bird, and the devil goes, I'll show you a horny bird.
That's right.
Also, John Lovitz in the new season of Tires.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Gets back. Eurystheus. Okay, I got rid of the birds. What's next? The 7th labor, and by far my favorite story I've heard in Greek mythology.
It's pretty good. Before we do that, let's do a bathroom break.
Okay. Well, hey there, all you sexy historians. How you guys doing?
It is time for
socials.
Where can they find us on Instagram?
If they want to follow us, they can find us at Historically High Pod on Instagram.
That goes the same for Threads as well. You can also find us on Twitter.
Tell them about Twitter.
historically high. That's historically HI on Twitter.
And if you want to email any of your comments or suggestions, where can they find us at, Adam?
At historically high podcast at gmail.com.
Gmail. All right, and back to the show. All right, so the seventh labor, the Cretan bull. We're going with another capture, another snatch and grab on this one. So now we're just kind of going all over the board. Kill, capture, clean shit, do whatever. The story behind the Cretan bull is amazing. It's the most Greek mythology thing that I think I've ever read. So King Minos, he has two older brothers, I think, and they're kind of all jockeying for the throne. He goes to Poseidon and he's like, what I need this just big white bull, snow white. I want this perfect bull. I can use that as showing as a sign that I have the divine right to be king. It ends up working. He gives him the bull and he's like, I'll give you the bull, but I want this thing sacrificed to me. So use it to get the crown. As soon as you're done doing that, because I'm responsible for it, you kill it in my honor. He's like, of course. Yeah, whatever you want. So he starts to kind of, after he becomes king, he's like, oh, I really like this bull. This thing is fucking beautiful. You know what? Just like take that one out. We'll switch another one in. He probably tried to find a white one, but it was a little dingy, had some other spots on it, probably painted over it, tried to pull like a jinxie off of the parents. Do you spray paint this cat's tail, fucker? And it sacrifices that one. Poseidon is like, no. Like, it's basically what Poseidon did is Minos is trying to play a shell game, except there's only 2 shells. So he knows that he can watch them way easier.
And it looked nothing alike.
Yeah, exactly. And so he's like, you know what? Fuck this King Minos. I know how to get back at him. Goes to Aphrodite and he's like, okay, Daddy, because I think Aphrodite is the daughter of Poseidon. We've done so many episodes. We did the Greek mythology one, but there's so much
long time ago.
Sex. Yeah, and there's almost so much fucking that the family tree is just it's vines. It's grapevines is what it is. Goes to Aphrodite and is like, hey, pumpkin. She's like, Daddy. He's like, hey, Daddy needs you to do a favor for him. She's like, what is it? He's like, okay, so this mean man, King Minos, he was supposed to sacrifice to your dad, and he decided not to go through with it. Oh, he sounds horrible. So what I'd like you to do is I want you to make his wife fall in love with the bull that I made and fuck it. And she's like, huh? He's like, yeah. I want you to make her fall in love and have sex with the bull. She's like, kind of gross, but okay. So she does just that. Mrs. Minos ends up falling in love with this bull. They have sex, I assume many times. You know, they're in love. It's new love. During new love, you're always boning. And the result of all this ends up becoming, I think you've just been getting ahead of yourself.
The Minotaur.
The Minotaur. So the product of both Mrs. Minos and fucking this bull is the Minotaur. And then afterwards, as if it wasn't revenge enough, Poseidon is still just fucking fired up with rage. And he's like, I'm going to channel all my rage into this, not the Minotaur, but the bull. Mm-hmm. And basically channels all this rage into it and then just lets it loose on the land. He's like, I'm just going to let this thing walk around and just fuck up this guy's kingdom.
Side note question. Mm-hmm. We get Minotaurs from a bull having sex with a woman. Do we get centaurs from a man having sex with a horse? Is that why the halves change?
I don't think that's a creature made out of something like that. I could be completely wrong.
I just feel like depending on who's doing the inseminating, you get top or bottom.
Here's the thing about Greek mythology. I can probably say, and I'm not even remotely sure about this, but because I'm going to say these two things, I think I have a 90% chance of being right.
Yeah.
A god fucked something.
Gotta be. Yeah.
So look that up. Tell me what god it was and what they fucked.
For a centaur?
Yeah.
Okay.
So all of a sudden, and this was this wasn't happening concurrently with this, seventh labor. It's not like he just appeared on the scene. She was having sex with the bull and all this occurred. This had occurred previously. And so Heracles is sent to basically rein this bull in, and that has the rage of Poseidon, and capture it and bring it back. So King Minos was on Crete, so he has to sail all the way to Crete. Minos, he goes to King Minos and he's like, hey, I'm here to kind of help figure out this bull problem. You want to go ahead and lend a hand considering this is also your problem? He's like, no, that bull's been fucking my wife. He's like, I'm not helping.
That bull's a homewrecker.
Yeah. He's like, what do you mean capture this guy? You need to kill this guy. I walked in the other day and he's plowing Mrs. Minos.
And he ate my sandwich from later.
Yeah. So Minos, he declines to actually help Hercules, but not really actually needing his help in the first place. Heracles ends up finding this bull, gets into a little bit of a dance with it, grabs the thing by the horn, and like fucking White Goodman in that mural, grabs the bull by the horns and wrestles the thing down, holds it down. It calms down a little bit, ties it up, throws it over his back, Heracles style. That's just, if you throw an animal over your back, that's a Heracles backpack.
Yeah.
Is what that is. And brings it to Eurystheus, as he does with all of these labors. Shows him the bull. He's like, here, another one. Every time someone, the bell rings and they're like, Heracles has returned. He's like, fuck. Sees the bull. And then Heracles is just like, just unties it, lets it go, and it goes and it's run around the Peloponnese at this point.
The incredible story that I heard about the bull, just the quick version, is Heracles shows up to take care of the bull, and of course at this point in time, everybody in that area,
nothing. I'm getting caught up on this, the lady fucking the bull thing.
It's
he shows
tough.
up to King Minos and he's like, hey, have you seen this bull? And he's like, have you checked inside my wife? Have you seen my wife? She's not in the castle, sire. Fuck!
She's in the stable. So Heracles shows up into town, and of course the people rejoice because they've heard about this great Heracles that's slain these beasts and cleaned these stables.
He's been doing it for years. He's getting around. It's the Peloponnese. I mean, it's not that big of an area.
Yeah. So Heracles shows up to fight off with Konos. No, I believe it was Konos is what the bull's name was. No, that's where he was sent. He was just a Cretan bull. So the people are like, cool, Heracles is going to wipe this bull off the map. Heracles and the bull come face to face. The bull starts tapping against the ground, starts pushing its foot. It takes off after Heracles, and instead of running straight at the bull, Heracles fucks off and runs the other direction, and everybody in town goes, no, don't kill him. You're not supposed to run from him.
Mm-hmm.
So they're running all through the vineyards, and the bull is chasing him and getting up close, and he's running through town, and he's diving through houses, and the whole entire time the bull is just paving its way through everything. And they said that he ran for an entire day.
The running of the bulls.
Well, that would be interesting. Ooh. I wonder if that has something to it.
Huh.
We did talk about that. We should have talked about that during the bullfighting episode. But eventually, after they've run everywhere on land and they've completely decimated this city as the bull is chasing Heracles, and everybody in town is now very pissed off at Heracles because all their stuff is completely torn up, he runs down into the water, and the bull starts following down into the water until the bull's feet can't touch the ground anymore, and it slowly starts to get tired. And then it falls under the water, and it starts to drown, and Heracles grabs it by the horn and throws it onto land outside of the water, and the bull is so worn out.
Can't throw it in the sky.
Yeah, Heracles.
Constellation.
Exactly. Well, you got to bring it back live. No, we're not going constellations with this one.
Because isn't Taurus is a bull?
I think he's a bull man, isn't he?
I thought Taurus was just a bull.
Possibly.
You're saying there's a minotaur up in the heavens?
So he comes up to this worn out bull and he pets it on the side and he starts pulling the seaweed and everything that had just carried through town off of it. And he goes,
Darren, my name is Darren.
Tell my kids. Tell Minos'
we were in love.
Tell Minos' wife that I love her.
Yeah.
Heracles goes, all right, you're worn out. I'm not going to kill you. Just load up onto my shoulders and chill for a second. I got to take you back to, I got to take you back to Eurystheus. And either way, the story is so fantastical, but just the fact that it's Heracles shows up into town and everybody's like, oh, thank God, he's going to take care of it. And then he runs the other direction and completely levels the city with this bull chasing him and the
First
people.
it fucks my wife, then it fucks my city. Yeah, and this was the first labor where Eurystheus was like, we got to get him out of Peloponnese. He's doing this stuff too close to home.
Yep.
He's succeeding in everything. So that's why they sent him to Crete for this one. So he completes that one. So now we come to the 8th labor, the mares of Diomedes. And this is, again, a capture. Technically, it's stealing.
Yep.
He's supposed to steal these mares from Diomedes. So King Diomedes of Thrace had raised these four mares. So in case people don't know, mares are horses. Raised
Lady
these four
horses.
horses.
Really? Lady horses?
Lady horses. Lady horses. So we had bulls fucking ladies, and now we got lady horses. So now this guy is a complete douchebag. Diomedes, if you want a sense of what Diomedes is, before we even start describing him, pull up on Google and put Diomedes and Hercules fighting statue.
The 8th labor of Diomedes statue.
Yes, and you will see what kind of fighter Diomedes is, and it will tell you everything you know. I'm going to let you guys I'm not even going to describe it for a little bit. I'm going to let you guys look it up, but you'll get what I mean.
We actually have a small 6-inch rendering of this statue to commemorate this episode.
Our goal is to see the one in real life.
Yes.
And to have a larger replica in our studio one day. So he has raised these things to be just these terrifying war horses, so much so that he has fed them a diet of human flesh. And because they have this diet of human flesh, they crave it. They're aggressive. These things are fucking nightmares. And he has these things like tow his chariot. So there's two different retellings or two different tellings of this, kind of the main tellings. Do you want to go first on yours?
Yeah, they basically... What Diomedes is said in one of these stories to do with these horses is any dissenters in the land. He goes ahead and he rounds them up and he throws them into the mare's stable, and these mares are man-eaters and they just eat anybody that comes anywhere close to running afoul of Diomedes, which is real fucked up.
It is. Can you, like, horses, like, you've never, horses kick and shit like that. And yeah, I know horses bite, but you look at a horse and that's like an animal that has a symbiotic relationship with man, whether it wants to or not.
That we've beaten into them over the generations.
So, but think of a horse going crazy and literally coming at you and stomping you and just ripping chunks of flesh out of you.
Yeah, it's not sharp razor teeth that are going into your skin and pulling a chunk out. These are blunt teeth that are just biting down and pinching it off of you, basically.
Yeah.
So these mares are pretty nasty beings, and Heracles shows up into town, and he starts heading towards the stables, and Diomedes cuts him off at the pass. And I don't know if they were pre-naked or they got naked for this fight that they went into, but they go into...
He leaves on the lion.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not covering his front.
Based upon the statue, they're both two very naked men. Diomedes does have his crown on still, and I think that's between that and the reach around maneuver that he pulls on Heracles.
What are you doing? Lose the crown. He's like, can I keep the crown on, man? He's like, fine.
The crown stays on.
Yeah.
So they go into this great Greek wrestling match where it goes back and forth. And eventually, as Heracles wraps his arms around Diomedes' waist, he flips him upside down. And in a last gasp effort, as he goes to throw him over the stable doors, Diomedes is to grab a hold of Heracles' penis, so as to say, if I'm going, I'm taking something with me. Heracles slaps his hand away from his penis, and he throws Diomedes over the stable's walls, and these mares eat their captor.
And this was said to like kind of sate their bloodlust. Like it was the one human that they desired to eat the most, because then they just actually became kind of like regular horses.
Yeah, Heracles does the right thing, though. He tapes their mouths shut so they can't bite anybody else.
Oh, he's not willing to take chances.
No.
He almost lost his dick once today. He's not taking that chance.
No.
So the telling that I heard was it went into a little bit more of an elaborate story. He's out there with a buddy of his from, missions ago named Abderus, and he was actually Hermes' son. So probably a bastard son of Hermes or something like that. And not quite a demigod, though. So
Semi-demigod?
A semi-demi. And he's on basically like this stealth mission. Like they're hiding in the trees. They're watching the stables where the horses are. They see a stable boy go in, but they don't see him go out. And so Abderus is like, so we're stealing these horses? He's like, yeah, we're stealing them. He's like, let's not fight. Like, I got a wife and kids I want to get home to. And he's like, no danger. He's like, nah, don't worry about it, man. No danger. I'm just going to sneak into the stables, grab the horses. We're going to get the fuck out of here. So they sneak down into the stables. They find that the horses, they're not being like violent or crazy yet. And they find them being held by these really thick iron chains. So Hercules goes over. Abderus is trying to pick the lock. Hercules is trying to break them. They end up getting out with the 4 horses. But as they're leaving, they're riding on 2 and towing the others behind them. One of the guards throws up the call, and Diomedes comes out, and he's like, after them. So they start chasing them, and Heracles and Abderus get into the trees, and Heracles is like, hey, I'm going to keep you out of danger. Wait here. I'll ride back. I'll take on all the guys, and I'll take out Diomedes, and then I'll come back for you, and we'll get out of here.
Every time I get help with one of these things, it doesn't count. Doesn't matter if it's a human or if it's water.
I don't need you to be seen. I don't need any witnesses telling me that there were more. They need to see only me. So it can't be 13 of these things. 12 is enough. Keep getting these things canceled out. So he rides out. He ends up confronting Diomedes and a bunch of his guys. And as him and Diomedes are talking, Heracles is on one of the horses, but the other 3 are back with Abderus. And as he's sitting there talking, he noticed something a little weird with the horse that he brought with him. And the horses had names. They were,
of course,
Podagros, Lampon, Xanthos, and Dionos. And in order, it was Swift, Shining, Yellow, and Terrible. So as Diomedes is talking, he's starting to be like, you didn't wonder why the horses were held down with chains and all this kind of stuff. And he ends up bringing out like a basket, and the basket has chunks of the stable boy that they'd seen like half of his body in it. And Heracles is putting 2 and 2 together, and all of a sudden he hears this scream back from the direction he came in.
No.
Jumps on the killer horse and rides it back because it's going to get him there faster. And then Diomedes and his boys are in pursuit. He ends up getting there, and the 3 other horses are circled around Abderus. They've already ripped off his arm, and they're taking like chunks out of like his, like trying to bite it and take chunks out of his stomach and shit. So Heracles goes over, he pushes them out of the way. He's trying to kind of like tourniquet or do some shit. They're joking back and forth like they do in Greek mythology. He's like, don't you go down on me. He's like, never. He's like, you said there wouldn't be danger.
It's like fucking Lethal Weapon.
Exactly. Yeah. Tool for this shit. And so he has this, Diomedes shows up, and they, get into this fight. And as they're getting ready to attack each other, he has his sword. Diomedes charges him. He moves past him, charges him again back the other direction, and Heracles gets him almost with like a lethal cut, but then kind of he dodges enough out of the way that it's just like a scrape. But then he takes it, and Diomedes looks at it, and he's like, you should have got me right there. He takes the blade, and he holds it up under the nose of the horse that's sitting right next to him, and it smells Diomedes' blood, and looks at him, and all 4 of the horses jump on him and just tear the fuck out of him.
Bloodlust.
Yeah. And then after that, kind of like they all go kind of calm and docile. I'm pretty sure Diomedes' soldiers see him getting torn apart, and they're just like, let's just get the fuck out of here. So they end up bailing, and then I think Abderus ends up surviving.
I hope so.
Yeah.
He was a willing but unwilling participant.
Yeah, you're just sitting there, and all of a sudden one of the horses just goes, grabs your arm and rips it off.
Yeah. Every once in a while when you see that happen at the Kentucky Derby or a horse race where the horse turns around and bites the jockey, just imagine that guy not stopping.
And as he brings him back, Eurystheus is like, okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I'll keep them. He ends up keeping the horses.
These horses eat men. Why would I want to keep them around?
He's like, not anymore, they don't. And then puts his sunglasses on. I guess you could say it ruined their appetite. All right, so now we come to the 9th of the Labours, the Girdle of Hippolyta.
This one might be me. This one might be my favorite one.
And this is a steal or acquire mission, but they're up in the stakes because Hippolyta is the queen of the Amazons.
And also the daughter of Ares.
Who does not like Hercules. And the girdle essentially is what gives her kind of invulnerability. As long as she's wearing the girdle, she can't fall in battle, she can't die. And it was gifted to her by Ares. So Heracles is like, I'm going to roll with some guys down there, to make sure things don't escalate, and gets there, meets with the Amazons, and Hippolyta is like, I've heard a lot about you. I've heard about a bunch of these labors. He's like, oh, which ones did you hear about? She's like, oh, the Hydra. He's like, that one didn't count. She's like, how did it not count? He's like, I know, right? So they end up getting along like really well, and it's kind of there's kind of a little bit, there's a little some sparks flying and everything. She's the queen of the Amazons. He's the demigod son of Zeus. Like, how does this thing not work out? So they basically go off to Hippolyta's like private quarters or whatever, and then his men are kind of just hanging out with the Amazons, and they're just like kind of chilling, and they're sitting there talking, and Heracles is like, yeah, I've been having to do these fucking 12 labors, and this guy's saying a couple of them don't count, and now he wants me to come and get this fucking girdle from you. I'm supposed to get this. And she's like, seriously? He's like, yeah. He's like, it's, I'm trying to tick these things off the list. I don't know if it was Eurystheus' daughter that was like, Daddy, I want the girdle. But he sends him after it anyway. And so she's like,
the fuck's he going to do with a woman's girdle? He's not going to war. He hides in a fucking brass pot.
No, that you just wear it under your armor and it keeps you in vulnerability. Yep.
It's like invulnerable Spanx.
Yep,
okay.
Exactly. So Hippolyta is like, you know what? Fuck it. And she, I imagine it's like when a woman like reaches behind her and pinches the bra clasp at the back and everything and then pulls it out through her sleeve. She's just like, here. He's like, oh, fuck, seriously? And she's like, yeah. She's like, go ahead and take it. I want you to get done with this shit. Maybe you can come back here and hang out with me a little bit more. And he's like, fucking cool. All right. Sounds good to me. Hera's watching all this. And she's like, no.
You're Amazons. You're supposed to hate all men.
Yeah, fuck. And so she ends up poofing down there. And she takes on the guise of Amazonian warrior. And she's walking around the camp with, Heracles' guys and the Amazons. And she's kind of leaning down, whispering. She's like, Hippolyta's been gone a long time. Like, are we sure she's okay? Like, what was Hercules sent here to get? Like, is she in danger? Like, he might be killing her right now. Start stirring up all this shit, and all of a sudden the Amazons get fired up, and they're like, fucking traitors. These men are here to kill Hippolyta, and start, like, killing his men. They hear this going on. They run outside, and all of a sudden they see their two forces going at it.
Yeah, that's why I love this stuff, is because different storytellers find different parts to kind of, I don't know, put an emphasis on it. The version that I had heard kind of up to that point was, as Heracles is showing up with his men, they start getting deeper and deeper into this forest that the Amazons live in. Him realizing that he doesn't want this one to not count. If he's going to go in and fight these women-hating men, he goes ahead and he tells his men, everybody, go back. I've come this far. I need to do this myself. He ends up taking off all of his weapons. He puts his hands up into the air and he marches into this Amazonian village. And these women all immediately hold their spears up and hold him at spear point. They say, what are you doing here? And he goes, I have come to meet Hippolyta. They said, well, you're not going to get anywhere near our queen. And he says, I need to tell her a story. And
are you here for snoo? That's the only time that they would ever invite men, is they were just like, we would invite men in for breeding purposes, and then we would use them and probably kill them, which I can't think of a better way to go.
Yeah, we get the blonde bombshell in
the goth chick.
Vice.
Yep.
And then we get the goth chick in Virtue, and then we get the muscle mommies in the Amazonians.
So did you know that in Norse mythology, Valhalla, getting into Valhalla, you could die in battle, glorious death in battle.
Yep.
The other way is if you went out during sex, that would get you into Valhalla as well. So, like,
I don't see how it wouldn't.
If someone sat on your face and that's how you went out, like every
if you
good Christian man should, you get into Valhalla.
So Hippolyta hears of this man that has walked into the village without any weapons, and he comes out and he speaks to her, and she goes, what makes me not kill this man in the footsteps that he is in?
Brought chocolate and Sex in the City on DVD.
Heracles looks back at Hippolyta and he goes, I'm not a man and I am not a woman. I am a storyteller, and I have come to tell you a story that you have never heard before. And Hippolyta says, nonsense, I have heard all the stories in the land. And Heracles goes, I promise you've not heard this one. Do you have any idea what I am talking about? And she goes, I'm sure I've heard it, but come back to my hut and tell me anyway. And if it's a good enough story, you will walk out of here alive.
Let's see what that mouth do.
Exactly, yeah. Let's see your linguistic skills here.
Mm-hmm.
So Heracles follows Hippolyta back into her hut, and as they're inside, he begins to basically tell her the story of his life. Knowing that she wouldn't know everything from birth to death, she may have heard some things about his triumphs, but she didn't know anything about anything else. And as he finishes telling the story up to the point of coming to meet Hippolyta, he looks over at her and she starts crying. And he says, what's wrong? And she goes, where did you hear this story? And he goes, that's the story of my life. I am Heracles. She goes, why have you come to seek me out? And he says, well, my asshole cousin made me come get your belt. And
Girl, I'm here for that lingerie.
if I don't bring it back to him, he's going to end up killing me, and I'm not going to be able to basically avenge the deaths of my wife and daughters.
My stepmom's a bitch, and I fucked up, and now she's making me work for my cousin, and I got to do all the bullshit that he wants. And if I don't do the bullshit he wants, I have to do more bullshit that he wants. And just take off your bra and let me take it back to him.
Just less talk.
I know a girdle is not a bra. Yeah.
It's in between a bra and a belt.
Mm-hmm.
So as they're inside the hut, the other Amazonians are waiting outside, and Hera shows up. She always seems to show up in the form of a snake usually, which is ironic for this story, which is probably intentional.
Yeah. I always just remember it from the USA show. Whenever Hera would have something to do with it, you would see her eyes in the sky. They look like the eyes of a peacock feather.
Interesting. So this snake ends up coiling itself up in the middle of this Amazonian village, and she starts whispering and telling the women that Heracles is the one that's in the hut with Hippolyta, and that Heracles had murdered his wife and his 3 daughters, and that he was coming to murder Hippolyta, even though he didn't have any weapons. So this sends the women into a rage because they're Amazonians. They just heard that this guy murdered 3 daughters and a wife.
You make a good point, random snake that's talking to me and that I haven't seen before in the middle of this village.
Did we get into the fortified wine too?
Yeah.
What's happening?
Did someone get a snake that talks?
Immediately upon hearing this, the Amazonians go and they tear apart the shelter, and Hippolyta asks them what they're doing, and they say that he's killed his daughters, and Hippolyta stands up and she goes, he told me his story. I believe him. He's here to avenge their deaths. Hera was the one that tricked him into doing it. And they say, he came to kill you too. And she goes, what? And immediately upon hearing this, Heracles fucks off out of the village. And on the way out of the village, he ends up grabbing one of the Amazonians and he throws her over his shoulder. And as they're running back through the forest, Hippolyta's gaining on him and gaining on him. Finally, she ends up getting in front of him and there's a standstill. And she goes, are you going to kill another woman? I don't know why I keep giving her a man voice, but maybe it's like a China thing.
I wasn't going to stop you. I'm letting you cook.
And he goes, I need your belt. That's straight across 1-for-1 trade. I don't want to kill this woman.
Just give me the fucking belt. I'll give her to you.
I give her you give me the belt. We'll call this even. And as soon as she pulls off the belt, he throws her high into the air and he snatches the belt out of her hand, and Hippolyta catches the woman, and by the time she does, Hercules has already run all the way out of the forest.
And then there's another version where somehow accidentally he clubs her in the head and kills her.
So again, we get kind of the push and pull of the good and bad in these stories.
I want to say it's the reaction when they both go outside and they see that like their forces are fighting each other.
He clanks her. And
well, Hippolyta thinks that then he's there to harm her, and it kind of she turns around and he's like, gotta have that belt, and just thud right on the head and kills her, and then takes and they bounce. Either way, he's got the girdle. She's dead, or maybe not dead, or they made a deal, and he ends up taking it back and turning it into, if it's not written down on the page in front of me, Eurystheus?
Yeah, Eurystheus.
Eurystheus. And turns it over to him, and he's on to the 10th labor. What should have been his last, he's got 2 more after this.
But we're taking up time. He's only supposed to be under Eurystheus's pole for 12 years.
Yeah.
So it's not a amount of numbers that he needs to get to. Originally it was 10, but then it got moved to be 12, but we're still talking about a 12-year timeline that he's in this servitude, this slavery.
Do you think it got to the point when they were writing down these myths? Like, it was the 12. It was probably when it first started, it was like 4 labors. And then they're like, well, how long did what's set in stone about this story? And they're like, it was 12 years. That's kind of been already established.
Yep.
They're like, okay, so we can do like what, 1 labor a year? They're like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's just write it that way.
Gotta fill this bitch up.
Then all of a sudden someone wants to write another story and they're like, how many labors are they up to? They're like 12. They're like, fuck, we already know it's 12 years. We can't add any more labors. Let's just start doing spin-offs of characters.
Heracles knows that it's 12 years, so every time he sets off for some place, they give him directions, and he goes, I'd like to take the long way, please.
I think when he captures the animal and he's hoofing it back, he's like, I'm just going to take my time.
Yeah.
We're not traveling fast, buddy.
This isn't going to be strenuous. I got some very strenuous activities that are coming up here soon.
All right, so numero dos, we get the cattle of
Diaz.
Huh?
Diaz. Dos is 2.
Oh, that's right. Dos plus ocho. The cattle of Gurion. And he is this, Gurion is this basically in the same way that like Polyphemus, the Cyclops from the Odyssey, kind of in the same vein of that storytelling. He is a giant. He's got 3, it's not 3 heads. At the torso, they all meet together in one mass. Then from the torso, it's 3 separate like bodies. Men. So they each have 2 arms.
Conjoined triplet.
Yeah, but like with space. They're not like, they're only conjoined like at the waist. And then after the waist, 6 pairs of legs. So it's basically like you took 3 dudes and just super glued them all dicks together.
That's not.
Except they're all facing the same direction.
Yeah, that's 3 brains that are trying to guide 6 feet.
It's tough. So this is whose cows these are. So he's sent to get these cows, and he decides to kind of take a roundabout way because this place is far, like outside the Mediterranean far. So they're not only trying to give him these more difficult tasks where there's more danger, but now they're just trying to send his ass as far away as possible.
I believe he has to cross the Libyan desert, and he ends up being so pissed off at the sun and the heat that he fires an arrow at the sun, which
he threatens.
Oh, he threatens Helios?
Yeah, so he sees Helios going across the sky, and he curses him, and he comes down, and he's like, what? He's like, the fuck did you say? He's like, I'm baking under this thing. It is so hot. Fucking hot, dude. Helios is going to be like, where did you come from? He's like Greece, like the Peloponnese. He's like, why are you in Libya? you like went south. You need to be going further to the west. He's like, anyway, this sun thing, he's like, you need to cool it down. He's like, dude, I'm just doing my job. Just towing the sun across the sky. It's hot as fuck down here. You're in the desert.
Yep.
Pulls out one of the arrows. He's like, this is dipped in venom from the Hydra. And he's like, I'm going to shoot the fucking sun with this thing. He's like, hold up. How about I back this thing off a little bit?
I came at you wrong.
And yeah, sorry. You know what? I came at you hot. I have to tow this thing across the sky every day. I'm sorry. I'm fucking bored. I get a little bit grumpy.
I met you at an 8. I should have been a 4.
Yeah. To make up for it, I'm going to give you this cup. He's like, gee, thanks. He's like, no. Toss it in the water. Toss it in the water, and this cup just becomes a boat. It's still a circular one, but it's got a fucking sail. And apparently this thing can expand in size for whatever you need it for. So Hercules gets in this golden cup that floats and takes this shit all the way across the Mediterranean. As he is getting through what's now the Straits of Gibraltar, the reason it's called the Pillar of Hercules is because he establishes these 2 pillars, one on the side where it would be Spain.
Yeah, the Iberian.
The other side, which would be Morocco. So I can't remember what the one in Morocco is called for the actual pillar, but the one that's in Gibraltar is the Rock of Gibraltar.
And they're just 2 giant,
tight, like little singular peaks.
Yeah.
So he gets out of the Mediterranean. He starts to find rough waters. So he's floating in this cup, and all I imagine is that he just pulls out this arrow and knocks it and just aims it at the water. And he's like, Oceanus. Oceanus comes up and he's like, yeah. He's like, you need to chill the fuck out on these waves, or I'm going to fire this Hydra poison arrow in the water. And Oceanus is like, okay. And just like chills the water out and helps him get to this island where these cows are.
We also forgot to mention that Geryon, I like Geryon better, has a very large dog. This very large two-headed dog is named Orthus. Orthus is one mean bastard. So you have a three-headed, six-armed, six-legged man in Geryon, and then you have a two-headed dog.
You also have like a guy that's a caretaker there of the cattle.
He's like a herdsman.
Eurytion?
Yeah.
He's Ares' son.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
Didn't know that.
but I'm guessing in the same vein that Ares just went down and had a one-night stand. But so he ends up showing up. He's got to not only take out this two-headed dog, which if you think a two-headed dog is scary, just wait. And then also kills Eurytion. Ends up killing him. At this point, his go-to is he's like, these poison arrows are so fucking good. I'm just going to kill everything with these poison.
If it works, it works.
But you always get the sense in these labors, like, yeah, he fought the fucking lion hand to hand. But as soon as he got these arrows, he's like, oh, yeah, I just killed everything with these arrows. Like, why was I not, like, how, yeah, why would I get close?
Should have done the Hydra first. These things might have worked on the lion.
Yeah, no shit. Kills these two guys who are basically the protectors of this herd, and then basically, and herds these cows down into this giant cup that is expanded, sets sail, and sends them all the way back to Greece.
Some real Noah's Ark type shit with that that little cup.
Did he also shoot Geryon with the arrow and kill him?
I believe it was he beat Orthos with the club.
Okay.
He beat Orthos and the herdsman with the club, and then he ends up killing Geryon with the poison-tipped arrow.
He's like, okay, you're just a two-headed dog and you're a normal guy. I can literally club you guys to death, no problem. And then he sees this three-torsoed, six-legged thing pop out. He's like, fuck, and just fires an arrow.
He was playing whack-a-mole with the herdsman and with Orthos, just beating those three collective heads together, and he's like, shit, I'm tired of swinging this club. Let's just get rid of this guy
I'm running low on arrows.
Yeah.
I gotta kind of conserve these.
Yeah, so he herds these cattle all the way back to Eurystheus, all the way in Mycea, or Mycena, John Cena, Mycea, whatever we want to go with.
Mycenae or whatever.
Mycenae, yeah. We're deep into these labors. These Greek words are incredible.
The place where Eurystheus is.
And Eurystheus is immediately, like, he's just so tired of seeing Heracles come back, but every time he comes back with something, it's always just more shit for his kingdom and more stuff that he has to take care of. And now he has these cattle on his hands. He's got this golden antlered deer that's running around. There's this fucking bull
the deer
that's going nuts.
Well, yeah, but those weren't in his possession.
They were still roaming around.
Oh, correct. Yes.
The kingdom.
I don't know how crazy he is about the bull. That's
that's
murderous.
probably
just running
an
around.
issue.
But some of these things, like the mares, like this, he's keeping for his own benefit. So he's kind of gone from, hey, if this guy dies when I send him out, that's kind of, priority one. But if I'm going to send him out, I might as well send him out to like bring me back some shit. So the last 4 labors have been like not kills; they've been captures. So all of a sudden he's got all of these cows. He's like, fantastic. What else can I send you to do, and what's super duper dangerous? Well, there are these golden apples. They are the golden apples of the Hesperides. And basically, these golden apples are what provide the Greek gods with their immortality.
They were a wedding present from Hera to Zeus.
Yeah.
So this one also holds a little special value.
I want to say it was provided to Hera by like Gaia or something, which is weird because the whole point of them overthrowing the Titans, I don't know if it was like, hey, thanks for keeping us alive. Here's an apple tree that will let you live forever.
I imagine that's partially a curse, but at the same time, this shows that Eurystheus has gone into business for himself. Because Hera wouldn't try to put these apples that she gave Zeus on the line for Heracles to go collect.
Yeah. That'll make you immortal. Yeah.
Yeah, so this one I absolutely love too because it comes with a little deception.
Sneaky.
Heracles is trying to figure out his way into this garden that he hears is protected by this dragon. He ends up walking around, and I forget, how does he run into Atlas?
Well, don't shortchange this dragon. This is 100-headed dragon.
All right.
I think its name is like Ladon or something like that. Somehow during the search for this, he runs into Atlas. And Atlas in Greek mythology is the Titan who was required to hold up the heavens. So when you ever see the statue of Atlas, it's basically the giant globe on his back.
Yeah, he's holding up the sky.
Yeah. And runs into Atlas and is like, "Hey, do you know where the golden apples are?" He's like, yeah, they're over that way." He's like, "Hey, thanks." He's like, "But you can't get them. Hold on. You can't get them unless you're a god. If you try to pluck one, it either does something to you or it just turns to ash or something like that. It's not usable."
I also knew the dragon when he was a kid. I knew him when he was a lizard.
Yeah.
We're
tight.
A very dangerous dragon now.
Yeah. So he's like, "Oh, shit. Will you grab him for me?" He's like, "I'll take that first. I'll take that. And
I'll take the sky.
Yeah, I'll
from
take
you.
the sky if you want to go snag me a few of those apples." Atlas is like, "Fuck yes. Here." And they shift the sky over, and Heracles is like, "Okay, let me get, okay, I got it. Go." And Atlas runs off to the tree, ends up snagging 3 of the apples.
Sees his children.
Yeah.
He spends time with his children. He hangs out. He probably plays poker with the dragon or something like that.
"What are you doing? This guy's not on your back." He's like, "Yeah, I got a break for a little bit."
But he kind of gets this taste of freedom. He feels like this labor that was given to him for the rest of his life to hold up the heavens, which he has to hold above Mount Olympus so it doesn't crush the earth. So I'm not sure if Hercules is flying at this point, if he's grown like the Apache Man and the Super Friends.
Was he in Scandinavia? Was he in Norway? Is that kind of like, this has him traveling all over. But he ends up getting back to, I imagine when he shows back up, he's got like a souvenir, like one of those big long drinks you get in Las Vegas and everything. And he's walking around with it and like a hat and sunglasses. He's like, walks up, he's like, "Got you your apples." He's like, "Thanks, man." He's like, "You want to go ahead and take the sky back?" And he's like, "Yeah, about that. So listen, I'll take the apples for you, and I'll drop them off at Eurystheus so you can have this labor completed and everything."
Check it off the board.
So you can check it off the board so you're not losing out. But yeah, I'm not getting back under that thing. You're going to need to stay there. And Heracles is like, "Fuck." He starts to think for a second. He's like, all right. Think, you big dumb idiot. What would Athena do? What would Athena do? And he's like, "You know what? Fine. You know what? You're right. You've served your time. I murdered my entire family. I probably should do this. I got nothing to live for. Oh, but this thing, do you see the lion on the back? It's digging in to like the back of my neck. I got to readjust this thing. I got to get it in a more comfortable position. I'll roll it up like a squat pad." So Atlas is like, "Okay, give me the fucking thing while you get the thing adjusted." And he gets back up under it and starts supporting it. And Heracles kind of gets out and he's like, "Oh, thank you." He's like, "Are you going to like adjust it?" And he's like, "Yeah." And just grabs the golden apples and fucking bounces.
And part of I think that Heracles is goading Atlas about it. When Atlas comes back, he goes, "That's pretty heavy stuff, huh?" And Heracles goes, "Light work. This is, I could do this for the rest of my life. I could do this for the rest of time. I'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Just go ahead and run off." And that's when Atlas
thought you said this was heavy.
Can we make it more comfortable for you? Is it digging in? And that's when he pulls the old bait and switch on him. But he's outsmarted the Amazons. He's outsmarted numerous gods. He continuously outsmarts Hera. Now he's outsmarted a Titan. Like, we're moving up beyond Hera and beyond the children to the Titan times.
Doesn't he also save Prometheus during this labor?
Yeah. I don't know if it was during this labor. We will get to it kind of on his way after the 12th labor.
Okay. So that was 11. We come to it. The final labor, as long as it counts.
Yeah.
We come to the 12th labor.
The impossible labor.
Yes.
Because as Heracles is half mortal, if you are to go into the underworld as a mortal, your soul will never come back.
Or you'll be prevented from coming back by the security measures in place to ensure that no one escapes Hades or the underworld.
That security measure is named Cerberus, or Cerberus.
Cerberus.
Cerberus or Cerberus?
Cerberus. There's multiple pronunciations of it. I think Cerberus is the one that's been...
Not Sibian?
No, that's a whole different beast.
Oh, okay.
That's a completely different beast.
Shakes a lot, I heard.
Yes, it does. So Cerberus is the guardian of Hades. He's the 3-headed dog. And I'm trying to think of, he's also the brother of that Orthrus, the 2-headed dog that Hercules has already killed. So, but to get him, he has to travel into the underworld. And again, Cerberus is there to prevent anyone who still is not technically dead from escaping. So he's got to basically escape with the thing that's supposed to keep him from escaping.
Mm-hmm. Also, pulling the security measures away from the underworld to potentially release anything that's trying to leave.
Yeah, not only that, but there's also people that are going to miss Cerberus, like, fucking Hades, who is one of the big three as far as the gods go. So he has to find a way to get down there. There is part of this about the, what's the thing? Something mysteries. The Euclidean mysteries.
I'm unfamiliar.
I'm trying to remember what the term for it was. The reason I'm getting into that is it was almost like a cult, like Oracle of Delphi-ish. Okay. The Euclidean mysteries, I think, is something like that. But they would meet up, but it turns out that the places they would meet, or these temples that they would have dedicated to these like meetings, would be entrances like to the underworld. So this is kind of how he has to like sneak into to actually get there.
In the story that I heard, as far as his ability to get into the underworld, he calls on his father again after he called on him to release Chiron from his immortal bounds. He calls up to Zeus. He tells Zeus what his 12th labor is, and he tells Zeus that he doesn't want to go to the underworld because he won't come back. And Zeus goes, I always forget that you're part mortal. Okay, you have my blessing to do this, and by giving you my blessing, you will be able to keep your soul attached to your human form.
You can navigate a little bit.
As he goes into the underworld, he has to cross the very famous river Styx. To get there, the pathway to take the poor lost souls into the underworld. Also during this, I didn't realize it during the Greek mythology episode, but everybody just goes to the underworld. Like good, bad, ugly, hot, doesn't matter. If you're not a god, you just go to the underworld.
The Eleusinian mysteries.
Okay. And they were a cult?
Yeah, so he went to Eleusis and saw it was a priest who began what were known as the Eleusinian mysteries. The mysteries were sacred religious rites that celebrated the myth of Demeter and her daughter Persephone. And because Persephone was the wife of Hades, that's, I think, why the entrances and the access to the underworld was there.
That
solved it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, as he gets his mysteries and he goes into the underworld, he must ride this boat, the river Styx. And I believe the man on the boat, I forget his name, tells him that the next time he sees him, he will have the shillings, the 2 pence of shillings that are covering his eyes to pay the toll, but he'll cover this one for him.
Drachma.
Yeah. He tells him.
His name is Charon. So you have Chiron and Charon. Yeah.
Jesus. Just too close. So yeah, he goes, this one's on me. I'll take you in next time. You're going to be bringing those 2 shillings as you die and they cover your eyes. I'll take those as pence next time. As he gets to the gates of the underworld, he's immediately met by Cerberus, and Cerberus, being an angry 3-headed dog, is not very happy to see him. Eventually, Hades would come strolling up, and the best version that I had heard was that on the way, Zeus had talked to 2 of the other gods. Or it was a god and a goddess, and they had told him that Hades was a betting man, that he loved to make bets.
It was probably Artemis. Artemis has been helping him with this entire thing.
Yeah, and there was another dude that was with her.
Apollo. They're probably always together.
They said the easiest way for you to get Cerberus away from Hades is to make a bet with him.
Yeah, you're not getting him away by like any type of like stealth or you got to make sure it's okay. It's worked once when you asked, Artemis or when you asked me to let you with the deer. Just try to ask first.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. So as he shows up and Hades rolls up on him, he asks him what he's doing here. He goes, the great Heracles. There's many a beast in the underworld that you have sent here that will be very happy to see that you have arrived. He goes, not going into the underworld, still alive.
What's up, Unc?
Yeah. Yeah, we're related. Blood in, blood out. Just
Uncle Hades.
Keep me out of there.
Yeah. Your father jammed me fucking down here to look after all the dead people.
He thought it was hot in that desert, trying being down here all the time.
No shit.
So he goes, what are you here for? And he tells him that he is there to collect Cerberus and to bring him back to Eurystheus. This will be potentially his final labor because even though it is the 12th, it's coming up to an impossible labor and it's coming up to his 12-year period of enslavement. And Hades laughs at him and says, you think that even if I allowed you to take Cerberus away from me, that you could actually handle this 3-headed dog?
Yeah, like if I'm not saying yes, but you're saying if I said yes, I wouldn't be telling him, hey, go with him. Yeah, like go with this guy. No, you're gonna have to take this on your own accord. And that kind of piques his curiosity, but he's like, fuck it, why not? Let's see if you can.
So Heracles says, I have a wager for you. And immediately Hades' little devil horns or whatever he has are tipped. And he goes, oh, a bet. What bet do you have? And he goes, if I'm allowed to take Cerberus away, I will bring him back within the day. And Hades goes, the rule is you must not use any weapons and you must not kill my dog.
Yeah.
And Hercules goes,
Don't hurt my puppy.
yeah. Hercules goes,
It's like one of your buddies asking you, being like, can I borrow your puppy to take to the park so I can try to pick up girls? Yeah.
Except for you're trying to just satiate your shithead cousin from
Yeah,
trying to kill you.
It's a little different.
A little different. So he agrees to it, and Hades goes, I doubt I'll see you again. I will come collect my dog once you have failed this mission.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a little bit of time for Heracles to get Cerberus under control. There's some wrestling going on. There's some biting of the cloak that obviously doesn't pierce Heracles, but at the same time doesn't go well for him.
Yeah, so I mean, this thing's got 3 heads, and it's described as
do you
like
do that?
it's described as a very large animal. Like any depictions show this thing as like a huge beast. Again, this is probably maybe twice the size of Heracles, small enough to the fact where he's able to, in multiple instances, either get 2 of its heads in headlocks or grasp all 3 of its heads in one headlock. And so size is, it's a little inconsistent, but, fuck it, it's a 3-headed dog. Let's go.
He wishes he had the extra arms like Garyon to try to lock this dog down.
Yeah, exactly. So as you would with a dog, you take off running and it chases you, and he's trying to tire this thing out, but he realizes pretty quickly that this dog is much faster than he is, and he's not going to do it very quickly. So he runs out to the dock on the river Styx and turns around. He's like, oh, come on, buddy. And the dog fucking runs at him. And at the last minute, he does the move he did with the lion. He does a little ole. The dog all of a sudden, I imagine comically, when the dog tries to stop it, something that's far in front and it's like kicking backwards and it just slides. It doesn't fall straight in the water. It does the Looney Tunes thing where it scoots off about 15 feet and then falls straight in. Apparently dogs not very good at swimming. So all of a sudden it's struggling. It's kind of going under and everything.
It's a lot of heads to keep above water.
Hercules is just sitting there looking at his sundial on his wrist, kind of just taking the time watching the dog. And he's like, okay, dives in, grabs the dog, all 3 of its like heads in like one headlock, and then paddles his way over to the bank, pulls it out. The dog's fucking gassed at this point, and he grabs the back haunches, the back legs, and just starts walking out of the underworld. Well, he starts getting up to the point where like they're starting to see some sun, and the dog's like whimpering and like kind of freaking out a little bit, and he realizes, oh shit, yeah, this dog's been in the underworld its entire life.
Never seen sun.
And as he gets it out, there's like a switch that flips, because as soon as he's out, the dog's total core programming is, I'm supposed to keep any of the things that are in the underworld from leaving the underworld. That's my job. If I'm not in the underworld and this thing isn't in the underworld, I don't have anything to do with it. So the dog basically reverts back into an actual dog. It's
docile,
it's walking with him. It's kind of running around. It's sniffing all these things that it's never sniffed before. It's a fucking dog at this point. And so Heracles ends up rolling back into Mycenae with this giant fucking Hades-owned 3-headed dog. And he's like, surprise.
There's 2 different stories that come from this that I like them both. One is that he actually takes Cerberus all the way up into the royal court, and he kicks open the doors to the royal court, and he looks around and he doesn't see anybody inside the royal court. There's just the throne.
Hey, asshole, I got your fucking dog.
Yeah, come out. You're going to love to see this. And this one doesn't make a whole ton of sense, but the actual...
None of them do.
Yeah.
A lady fucked a bull.
Fair enough.
Oh, how did you find out about the centaurs?
Oh, it gets weird.
Okay.
So it says, in Greek mythology, the centaurs were created in a few different ways. The most common story involving Ixion, a human king who tried to seduce Hera. To trick Ixion, Zeus disguised a cloud as Hera, and from there the union was born Centaurus, the first centaur. Centaurus then mated with the mares, producing the race of centaurs. So he tricked a human into fucking a cloud that looked like Hera, and somehow that's how centaurs were born.
Of course.
Yeah, it's no less logical than anything else. So
I mean, you could have just had a person fucking a horse.
It's true. He gets up to the royal court. The throne is empty. Nobody's in there. He tells Cerberus to chill out for a little bit. Apparently, hang out, catch your breath. The bronze pot that Eurystheus is hiding in is up in the court, and as he leaves, he comes back in like an hour. Throne's gone. Pot's gone. Cerberus is laying in the middle of the floor, just passed out. Just trying to arouse him, we got to go back to Hades. It's time.
Come on.
Somebody had to have seen you.
Wake the fuck up.
He goes to pick him up off the floor, and as he does, he hears a clanking in his stomach. He's like, well, that's weird. He looks around, notices that the throne's gone, notices that the bronze pot's gone. Eurystheus may have been in the pot. He may not have been in the pot. They take the long-ass walk all the way back to the underworld. They get there, and Hades comes out.
This is one of those situations, because in one of the versions, didn't Hades tell me, he's like, no people food.
Yeah.
He basically told me, he's like, this thing can't eat anything up there. Which is basically the version of having someone watch your dog and be like, don't give him people food. We don't give him scraps.
Yeah, he doesn't eat anything off of our plate.
The whole time back, he's walking with Cerberus, and he's like, just waiting for him. He's like, you got to shit this out, buddy, before we get back to Hades. Because if I drop you off with your dad and you shit out this urn with this dead king in it or the throne, I'm going to get in trouble.
This is not going to be my bet won't win.
He's just walking really slow, and he takes him out in the field. And he's like, just fucking poop, dog.
Doing the payday squeeze. He's got him around the haunches, and he's just pulling, trying to get him to shit.
It's the move you take if you've ever lived in an apartment and had a dog where it's cold as fuck outside, and you're taking the dog out to go to the bathroom, and it's taking its sweet time taking a shit, and you're just like, just shit already.
Come on.
Yeah.
So they end up getting back to the underworld. As they get there, Artemis and Ares, Artemis and Apollo, that were believed to have told him about the bet
the Wonder Twins.
Yeah. They're like, you're going to need to get Cerberus there, and then you got to haul ass back, because Hades hates losing more than he likes winning a bet, and he's going to be very pissed off.
And he's going to find a way to win this bet.
So he sets Cerberus down after he had to carry him the last little bit of the way because he was still so full. He didn't get anything out of his stomach. Hades comes rushing to the gate, sees that there's something wrong with his dog, and he starts screaming at Heracles, what did you feed my dog? What did you do to my dog? He goes to pick him up, and he hears the clanking in his stomach, and Heracles is already so far away that he can't get a hold of him.
Sorry.
The other version of the story...
I didn't mean to.
The other version of the story is that he brings the Cerberus back, he walks up to the gates, and immediately, as soon as Eurystheus sees the Cerberus, he jumps into his bronze pot. And as he's hanging out in there, Heracles is basically like doing tricks with the Cerberus and just taunting him and telling him to come out and play with the dog.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you hear a scream from the pot, and Eurystheus shoots out of it. And immediately this black ghost comes out of it, and it's Hades. And he goes, I heard you were going to try to keep my dog. And Eurystheus is like, no, I don't want your dog. Take your dog home. I didn't think he was going to come back. I didn't think this was going to happen. Hades goes, just give me my dog. I will see you soon enough. And Eurystheus just kind of freezes and stares at the black ghost as it goes over and collects the dog and goes back home. And that's kind of Eurystheus is like, oh shit, he said he's going to see me soon.
Touch of Death.
Yeah.
I like both of those, actually.
Yeah. It's they're both kind of fun. And it's a great way to release from these 12 labors. In the first one, when Heracles takes the Cerberus back, there is a story of a young man whose soul is trapped in the underworld that comes to Heracles, and he goes, are you the famous Heracles? And he says, well, yes, of course I am.
Guilty as charged.
And he says, will you do me a favor? And he's like, I'm already trying to redeem myself for my wife and kids.
Did you say fucking labor?
Yeah.
No, I said favor. It's the same thing.
The young soul tells him, I've met your daughters. Your daughters play down here on a regular basis. I see them all the time.
Because, again, the underworld is not just like you would think of like hell. So the underworld is essentially where everybody goes, but there are different, there's levels to this shit. There's like the Elysian Fields, that is basically heaven. So that's the place where, you know, the good and the virtuous go. Then there's, I want to say Tartarus, which is like a lower level. And then there's just maybe generally like Hades, where there's like a field also where like Limbo or something, where they just kind of wander.
Mormon outer darkness.
Yeah.
So as the young man says, I'm keeping an eye on your daughters. You will not be here anytime soon, because you are the great Heracles. The only thing that I ask is you go check on my sister that's still alive, and we'll get to it here in a second. Her name is Deianira. Deianira is a fine woman, and she knows of your stories, and she would love to meet you. He's like, all right, I gotta go. Hades is very mad about the bet. If I have time, I'll go see Deianira. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Hey, dude. Here's the deal. I'll watch after your kids, but you got to go fuck my sister.
Yeah.
Go throw into my sister. She's been really sad since I've been gone.
Yeah, go throw her a petty bag.
Yeah.
So he's released from these 12 labors, and he doesn't have a whole lot to do. He starts kind of traveling around the Aegean. He travels around the areas that he's been in before. There's nothing to return to Thebes for, because if he returns to Thebes, he's going to return to a kingdom his father-in-law is still probably pretty angry about the killing of his daughter and grandchildren. So he kind of starts to wander about, and as he wanders about,
like David Carradine in Kung Fu.
Yeah.
With less jerking off with a belt around your neck. I'm sure he tried that as one of his, he's like, the forbidden 13th labor. That's what Eurystheus was going to assign to him next. He showed up after the 12th labor, and he's like, all right, and for your next job, he's like, no. He's like, that was 12. He's like, I have you for 12 years. He's like, I want you to try to jerk off with a belt around your neck. He's like, hold on a second. Checks his watch. He's like, and midnight, I'm no longer in your service. You almost got me.
He shows back up to the court, and Eurystheus holds up a belt and a picture of Aphrodite, and he's like, fuck, what am I going to do with that? So as he's
That's my cousin, dude.
As he's out wandering, he spots this big flock of giant eagles that's circling around this rock and decides to go check it out.
Aren't eagles the altar? They're the symbol of Zeus, right?
Yeah. And as he shows up, he notices that there is this titan that's it's chained around a rock, and these eagles are swooping down and pecking out at his liver.
Yeah.
He goes up, he talks to Prometheus, who's in great pain, who's been screaming. The screams obviously drew him as soon as he saw the lions. He asks Prometheus what's happening, and Prometheus says that he's paying the toll of the debt of giving the humans fire.
Yeah, so Prometheus is, the legend of Prometheus is he stole fire and gave it to mankind. Mankind was then everything was dark beforehand. Mankind was able to survive in the darkness. It was able to advance because it could cook and keep warm and all that stuff, yada, yada, yada.
Which doesn't make any sense, because the gods love watching the humans, and without fire.
Yeah, but it was too much of a leap. They didn't want them to. It was a sacred, divine gift or something. And so it was like treason to do it. So, yeah. So his crime is giving fire to humanity. His punishment is he gets his liver eaten by an eagle for all of eternity. Yeah. I just imagine it as Will Ferrell in Austin Powers. Just like Heracles is just walking down there and he hears, hello? Is anybody there? Can someone shoo the birds away?
So he gets this story from Prometheus. He asks him why he's down there, or why he's attached to the rock, and he says, the gods are vengeful. Mm-hmm. The gods are bad people. The gods did this to me for providing the gift that your mortals have enjoyed in fire. And this kind of starts to change the way that Heracles looks at his father. I'm sure at the same time he's putting two and two together. He's like, yeah, Hera has made my life a living hell since I was born. And even before I was born, she tried to make sure that I wasn't born. Maybe the gods are bad people. Maybe they're not great. And so he pulls out one of these.
I don't think it takes much thinking.
Yeah. Pulls out one of these poison-tipped arrows, and he fires it up into the air, and he hits one of the eagles. And then he proceeds to clear out the sky, Prometheus looks at him. He goes, "Foolish man, the birds will be back. They're back every single day."
Yeah, these these are magical divine birds.
Yeah, and they come and they eat the liver that regenerates every single
Every day.
morning. I have to go through this again. And Heracles is so pissed off.
Oh, hey, thanks. I didn't even think about getting rid of the birds.
Yeah, what a novel
You
concept.
think I haven't grabbed one of these things and killed it several times?
They just keep coming. So, to fix this, to right this wrong, Heracles pulls out his sword and he breaks the chains. He grabs the chains off of him and throws them into the air.
I just see Prometheus after he shoots the eagles. He's like, no, and holds it up. He's like, let me go.
Yeah. If the birds come back and I'm not here, they can't
Yeah.
get me. Just get me out of here.
Or even if the birds are alive, I need to move.
I can fight them off.
Yeah.
This makes total sense. So in doing so, I mean, this is a direct affront to the god's will of punishing Prometheus.
Because Zeus had a hand in this
Yeah.
punishment, doling this out.
Absolutely. And this is a kind of when Heracles loses his faith in his father and the gods and kind of goes a little bit atheist for a while. A polytheist atheist. Yeah. Multiple gods, doesn't believe in any of them,
Yeah.
or just believes they're bad people, I guess. He doesn't really have anything else to do at this point, so he just
Atheist.
atheist. But
Yeah, a patheist. A poly.
the atheist.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good word. It's time to go see Deindira.
It's time to bang this guy's sister.
Deidira was actively being competed for her hand in marriage. There was a centaur, of course, that shows up named Eurytion, and he would basically scare her father, Demexenus, into giving her to him. Luckily, Heracles shows up in time. Upon his arrival, he goes ahead and he slays Eurytion with his blade. He marries Deindira, who knew of Heracles' heroics, just like her brother had said. They fall madly in love, and we get to
Touch
another.
myself to your stone tablets of to the stone tablets of your legend.
We get to the turn in Heracles of this is where we see a double cross, and there's multiple things in here that Christianity, I don't know, I'm not going to say pirated, but
It all takes it all borrows. It does. I mean, it's not hard to track back.
when you look at about how this kind of goes, the Greeks had their shit stolen by the Romans. The Romans eventually accepted Christianity.
But only after they had combined the myths under a monotheistic like figurehead, but still kept some of the stuff. No, this guy is just this person, and he did this. He didn't do that, but he did this other stuff, and he has a different name.
Yeah.
So it's basically the same guy. I mean, our guy, like your guy, is an older bearded gentleman. He's not as jacked as your dude, but he still lives in the sky.
Yeah. Wears sandals.
Yeah.
Like sandals.
Robes.
So
It's basically, yeah.
just like as Jesus had an immaculate conception, you could say that Zeus transforming himself into a human is an immaculate conception in and of itself.
Yep.
We will also see a betrayal in this. There's so many correlations between Samson and the Bible and the things that Heracles had done that it all kind of crosses over. So this is where we start to see the Judas Iscariot moment, kind of unknowingly. As the couple attempted to cross the river Euanos, there was a wild centaur named Nessus that would steal Deianira away from him. And as they crossed the river, because apparently centaurs can swim much faster than Heracles can, Heracles ends up, instead of trying to close the gap, pulling out one of those poison-tipped arrows, fires it up in the air, nails Nessus, and takes him down. As Nessus is getting ready to die, he leans up to Deidira and he goes, "Did you know that the blood of a centaur is a love potion?" Deidira goes, "Why would I need a love potion?" And he says, "There will be a day that Heracles falls in love with another. He had already had a wife before that
The only thing more vast than his labors is his body count.
is his sexual appetite." He says, "If you take some of my blood and you put it on a tunic and you give it to Heracles, his love will be forever bonded to you and he will never look at another woman again." So Deidira trying to make sure that Heracles is locked down forever. This story makes sense. She goes ahead and she dips a robe in the blood.
Oh, yeah, definitely. This is classic situation of like centaur blood love potion.
Yeah.
It's a tale as old as time. I just see this as a situation where like he picks her up and starts riding off and Heracles is like, seriously, and just pulls out the bow. And doesn't even have to aim at this point because the thing doesn't miss. Ends up hitting him. They fall. He's like, take my blood as a love potion. Heracles is walking up and she's like, what? And he's like, take it as my love potion. And she's looking over to see if he can watch it. She's like, dunking the robe in it.
This is Dillinger in the
FBI episode.
Yeah, when they're dipping their
handkerchiefs
in blood. Yeah. So Deirdre has this tunic that is soaked in Nessius's blood, and they're reunited. Heracles ends up just continuing to be fucked with by Hera. He's stricken with these nightmares of his past. He's believed to have been visited by what was supposed to be a former wife. Her name is Iole. And Iole is basically, there's different tellings of he had asked for Iole's hand when they were children, and Iole's father had said yes, and then when it came time to marry, he had married her off to somebody else, so Heracles vowed to kill him for double-crossing him. These dreams keep coming. Deirdre knows that something's wrong with him. Eventually,
he's talking in his sleep.
Yeah,
he's rolling around,
saying another woman's name.
Iola. Between the screams of remembering his murdered family.
Yeah. So eventually Heracles decides
this motherfucker's dreaming about other girls.
Uh-huh.
What's her name? What's her fucking name? You've been saying it in your sleep enough.
Good morning, honey. Who is Eliola?
Mm-hmm.
Who is this woman you keep saying in your sleep? Oh, God, I thought it was just a dream.
Who you been dream fucking?
So Heracles decides that he needs to go visit her and he needs to go avenge this double cross and kill her father. And immediately Deirdre is like, shit. He's going to go fall in love with this woman that he was once promised to be married to.
Every time this guy goes to save some king or some woman or anything like that, he ends up with her.
Yeah. Logically, he's going back to see an old flame. Potentially this could happen. We all know who his father is.
Mm-hmm.
So she ends up sending one of their servants. Funny that he has servants after this. They also have multiple kids at this point. Heracles, as he's leaving, says, kiss the children. I will see you later. About 20 minutes later, she realizes what's going on. She grabs the servant. She gives the servant the tunic that was soaked in Nessius's blood, and she goes, go put this on Heracles. So the servant follows out. Heracles ends up running into his old flame, Iole, and she sees that he's just kind of this worn-down figure of what he used to be, and he's lost his belief in the gods. She thinks that it'll make him whole again and that it'll cure his nightmares if he can just give some sort of sacrifice to the gods.
Mm-hmm.
She tells him that the lion's pelt that he's wearing is too dirty for him to show up to give this sacrifice, so he needs to wash it. Right about then, the servant shows up with the second tunic, and...
Does this thing smell like jizz and blood?
Yeah. And he says, here, your wife didn't want you to get cold. Please put this on. And right around this time, Deirdre realizes that it's probably not a good thing that she's this jealous, and if he really did love her, that she doesn't need any magic to
of course
do this.
In the last minute.
Yeah. So as she's chasing after the servant who is chasing after Heracles, Heracles puts on the tunic and immediately starts to burn his skin. You're thinking, well, why in the world would it be burning his skin? Well, Nessius was shot by the poison-dipped arrow, and the arrow's poison had worked its way into Nessius's blood. Nessius's blood is essentially that same poison, and why would Nessius try to double-cross Heracles? But he was the brother of Creon, the dead centaur from before, so he's avenging his brother's death. Or Chiron.
Yeah, or Chiron, the boatman.
Yeah, one of the guys, Chiron, the other, his former teacher.
Yeah.
So we get the full-on double cross, and as Heracles is trying to pull off the tunic, he's pulling off chunks of his own skin as it's all melting away. We run into an issue here because much like Charon, the other Minotaur man, he is part immortal.
I think at this point, because he completed the labors, I think he may have actually gained that because it wasn't the
Yeah,
Oracle
there's-
telling him that he was supposed to, maybe not like a godhood status, but that leans into the story of like why it's not just immediately killing him, because everyone else it's touched, boom, dead.
Yeah.
With him, because I think he earned that immortality. Now he's in that position just like Chiron was, where he's basically being killed over and over, just a constant agony of being killed.
And there's the multiple tellings of when he finds out his immortality. I mean, I think probably when he sucked on Hera's tit was when he became immortal. But as he's dying, he tells Iole and his wife to build him a pyre, and he throws himself on the pyre. And before he throws himself on, he goes, "Zeus, my father, this is my sacrifice to you. I sacrifice myself." And before it happens, Zeus goes, "My son, you are immortal. You will come join us on Mount Olympus once your mortal soul is passed." Throws himself on the pyre.
No shit. he's sitting there dying. He's like, what? Aeolus and his wife are like, what do we do? What do we do? He's like, just fucking, I don't know, build a fire. He's just sitting there watching him build it. He's getting ready to jump on it. And Zeus is like, hold up. If, once this happens, we'll make sure you get up into the pantheon and all that good. She's like, oh, for real? And just fucking belly flops
Does a
onto it.
gainer into the pyre.
Later, bitches.
Yeah, as his body would burn, he would end up becoming immortal on Mount Olympus. Deirdre, obviously, thinking that she just killed her own husband and took the love of her life away, ends up taking her own life out of the sadness. The very interesting thing about this is as Heracles ascends up to Mount Olympus, he comes face to face with Hera. The milk, potentially, as we had just mentioned, from Hera's bosom is what made him immortal. Zeus saving him made him immortal. Clearing the slate of murdering his wife and children made him immortal. So many different things make him immortal. When he comes face to face with Hera, he looks in her eyes and he sees the sadness. And he asks if she has anything to say, and she does apologize for making his life a living hell, which at that point kind of feels like small potatoes.
Yeah, he's living in the house now.
Now you got to make
This is
good
the
with him.
stepmom that's been a complete fucking bitch to the kid who lives most of the time with his mom. And every time he comes over there, makes his life a living hell. Well, guess what? Dad's got full custody now and he's moving in. And now she's like, shit. You know what? Sorry about the whole murdering your family thing. I was having a bad day. Your father was fucking everything that moved. He's like, I get it. I know, but you fucking killed my family. So she's like, you know what? How about I offer you a replacement for the wife? Here is my daughter. Was it Hebe?
Yep.
So
Your
here's-
half-sister, Hebe.
Yeah, so here's Hebe. She's fucking smoking hot, though.
Yep.
So just get past the halves. Listen, look around you. You think anyone's going to judge you for plowing your half-sister? Think again.
You don't think we can fix the weird kids that you guys would have?
You're home.
Worst comes to worst, you guys have any weird kids, we'll just send them to the underworld. Hades, that'll be Hades' problem at that point.
I'm great at raising monsters, as you well know. So basically offers her daughter as like this peace offering.
Yeah, and of course, Heracles takes her, and they have many children together. There's so many other myths that surround Heracles that we just can't fit them all into one episode. We might revisit some of his other things because he goes on some pretty other crazy adventures.
He'll come in when we do. I mean, we've pretty extensively covered Hercules from fucking soup to nuts, life to death, but he is going to show up as these Greek myths, often do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of crossover. It's how they gain legitimacy for being what they consider to be true. If you have one of these major players show up in your story, first of all you got to do is add the Greek gods in there. It automatically lends credibility. You add in a hero that everyone knows about in your story, all of a sudden, who's to doubt it now?
Yeah, it's incredible to me how this week doing the research, instead of needing to lean on like experts and people that have studied this, in-depth soup to nuts, it's almost like we got to listen to storytellers all week because that's really what this comes down to.
You just get to hear stories from fucking Greek fanboys and girls.
There's no hard facts about this. It's completely made out of whole cloth.
There's a sandbox with a select group of toys that you're required to play with. Here's your god toys. Here's your hero toys. Here's the creature toys. Make this shit up. Do what you want. Well, he's going to have sex with her. And he's going to, someone's like, hey, they're brother and sister. He's like, I don't care.
Well, it's lived on this long.
Yeah.
It's lived on for 5,000 years.
Because it's cool as shit.
It's
like stories like this, like the Odyssey, like the Iliad. There's a reason why these things have stayed relevant, why you still read them in school. They're insanely well written. They're insanely creative. But at the same time, they come from a time that is just so mythical in itself, like ancient Greece, that you can almost read them and kind of suspend your disbelief and being like, this stuff might have happened. Who am I to say this shit didn't fucking happen in Greece?
Yeah, it opens up kind of this world of, well, I mean, they couldn't have just been telling themselves these things just for entertainment. Like there has to be some sort of truth to this in somewhere. We show up to Athens and we see the Pantheon and everything else that's built to these people without just realizing, like, oh, they were all cult members. Yeah. They just needed a religion. And this was their religion.
In essence, but the thing it was just all of these competing cults centered around this family.
Yeah.
So it would be like if you were to take like everyone picked a fucking Kennedy and just, which actually that is kind of exist, a cult around the cult of Kennedy, but just picked a different family member and was just like, I guess we're going to worship this one. This one's not even technically a member. It's like the fucking Kardashians. Yeah. Some of them are half siblings and everything. Some of them are people that came into the family.
Every once in a while, Chris Humphries still gets mentioned. He shows up in some wacky stories. He's off doing
Labours no kidding.
There is one other story that I feel like, I don't know how deep the episode is, but Heracles goes and has a drink off with Dionysus.
And once he becomes a god?
Yeah. Okay. I feel like that would be a very fun little, maybe a quick hit to do.
That's like first month in heavens or first month on Olympus type stuff. Like you're making the rounds. You've heard all these stories. You've met some of these gods. You get to actually, talk to them when they're at home, like, welcome. And you get to like get face to face. And so you're sitting there, Dionysus is next to you and you're like, so I hear you drink. He's like, a little bit. He's like, you want to go drink for drink? He's like, fuck yes, I do.
This is like us showing up in Ireland and trying to test an Irishman in a pub to see.
And this is where you would get a crazy legend like they drank so much that when they stumbled out of Olympus and they threw up over the edge of Olympus, it created a salt sea or like or like a river or some shit like that.
Yeah, they drank the river of wine that Dionysus had for himself dry.
They're out pissing on the side of Olympus and it's just trickling down and then I guess that's how the Euphrates was made, whatever. But
there's so much to it. Some of it just ties into the weirdest places. Like the astrology part of this is so fascinating to me, how these things, that was how they explained it, because how else are you going to explain it? This is a kid having a kid. Yeah.
We still take these like the Archer and Taurus and Cancer, like the crab and everything. And these are still, this is what we address them as, the same way we address the planets by their names that the Romans had given to them.
Yeah.
That's why it's hard to separate the mythology from the history because they're so intertwined. And that's what's fucking fun about it is you can talk about this stuff as a mythological history because it's so rich and it has so like fiction nowadays, we look at it and you're looking at all these stuff and you're like, I can see why everything borrows from this.
And this is something that over evolutionary times, like we've just been so inclined to be sucked into a story.
Yeah.
There's a reason why this still hits, and it's because it hit so well back then that oral tradition just continued on.
Like you just said, there's a Disney movie. They're coming out with the live action version of the Disney movie. Like this stuff still has an interest even after this vast amount of time.
You bringing up the Odyssey too reminded me that we get the Christopher Nolan Odyssey in 2026.
Yeah. Go back and listen to that episode if you haven't, so you can get a little bit of pre-information before that movie comes out in 2 years or whatever it is. It'll be worth it. Oh, man. I'm Greeked out.
Yeah,
We geeked out on, and I'm Greeked out.
I'm good with this. This was a fun episode to do. Nice lighthearted episode.
Yeah, low stakes. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed it too, and we'll catch you next week.
Peace.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us for another episode. If you like what you heard, hit that subscribe and like button. Follow us. If you didn't like what you heard, still hit that anyway, because we'll probably cover something in the future that you do like. Please follow us on our social media. Adam, hit him with it.
Our Instagram is Historically High Pod, Historically High POD, and we are on Twitter at Historically High. That's Historically HI.
All right. And if you guys want to send in any feedback, suggestions, hit us up on those two, or you can even do it on Gmail. It's historicallyhighpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again.
Peace.